We embark on a journey across a planet where reality surpasses the most fantastical fiction. Each national border holds countless stories, and each local tradition challenges conventional logic. The first point. Finland hosts a wife-carrying competition, a genuine official sport, complete with a set course, obstacles, and judges. Its beginnings can be traced to the 1990s, although its origins lie in the semi-mythical robber gangs of the 19th century Finnish forests. Legend has it that their leader, Herkkonen, trained his men in stealing food, escaping pursuers, and carrying women. Contemporary participants, naturally, have the agreement of both individuals involved. Various carrying styles exist, but the prevalent method is the Estonian technique. The wife hangs upside down on her husband's back, securing herself with her legs around his neck and waist. The course is far from a leisurely walk. Essential elements include a sandy section, a fence, and a water-filled pit. The wife's weight is strictly regulated, at least 49 kilograms. Otherwise, a weighted backpack is provided. The top prize is substantial. The victor receives beer equivalent in weight to his wife. The annual tournament takes place in Sonkajärvi, drawing crowds comparable to local hockey games. It's ironic that what started as a parody has become a national tradition. The second point. In New Zealand, the official registration of a child's name is subject to a list of prohibited names. This list is constantly revised and has included applications such as Lucifer, Mafia No Fear, Anal, and For Real. The government explains this by saying that the name must not be insulting, deceptive, or suggestive of a title. Documentation from the year 2011 also records more unusual situations. Parents tried to name their daughter Queen Victoria and their son with nothing. Yes, a completely blank field. There was a case where a father was denied the name Justice because it could create the impression of a legal title. In contrast, an event from 2008 seems almost nonsensical. A girl registered as Tallulah Does the Hula from Hawaii was temporarily taken from her family by court order. The judge declared, "The child suffers from a ridiculous name that makes her the subject of ridicule." The girl was 9 years old and refused to pronounce her own name, even to her friends. Fact number 3. A government program for training carrier pigeons existed in Mongolia for many years. This is not an outdated practice, but a reality of the mid-20th century. Following the Second World War, the country actively searched for methods to improve rapid communication between remote AMOGs, administrative regions dispersed across the steppes, where roads functioned more as guidelines than as established infrastructure. A dedicated pigeon department was established by the authorities. Birds were procured from the Soviet Union and China. Pigeon lofts were constructed in Ulaanbaatar and several crucial locations, and training commenced. Mail delivery was unidirectional. Pigeons were housed in the capital, with each region receiving its consignment for release. The birds returned independently. Each bird possessed a numbered ring, and archival records contain entries such as, "Pigeon number 226 arrived late due to strong wind." By the 1980s, the program was discontinued due to the advent of satellite radio stations, followed by mobile technologies. Nevertheless, an emblem carved in stone depicting a soaring pigeon and bearing the Cyrillic inscription, "Communication is a matter of state importance," remains on a government building in Ulaanbaatar. The fourth fact. In Italy, a village exists where death is officially prohibited. This is not figurative language. It's a municipal ordinance. The village is Lagozza degli Ozzi, a small town located in the Campania region. At the beginning of the 90s, the local cemetery reached its capacity, and an agreement with nearby municipalities for the burial of the deceased was stalled due to bureaucratic complications. The town council, without away regional action, issued a decree. Death within the municipality is temporarily prohibited. Those who violate this law will face consequences. The signature and seal were authentic. Naturally, no one was prosecuted, but the event garnered significant attention. National television reports, journalist visits, and numerous tourists eager to see the place where dying is illegal. Local residents at that time made considerable efforts. According to a medical professional, elderly patients suspected of having heart attacks were quickly transported to neighboring municipalities to avoid worsening the legal uncertainty. 2 years later, the issue was resolved, but the phrase prohibition of death became a popular meme and is included in school textbooks as an example of a real-life instance of absurd legal action. Point 5. In Japan, one can purchase insurance covering inclement weather during a date. This policy compensates for emotional distress should rain or snow disrupt romantic plans. This service emerged in the 2000s and was initially perceived as a marketing oddity. However, it proved effective. Sompo Japan Insurance has implemented a specific tariff. If Tokyo experiences precipitation exceeding a predetermined level, e.g. 5 millimeters, on the date in question, the client receives reimbursement, ranging from taxi fare to full dinner expense repayment. Terms are established beforehand. Advance application is required, specifying the date, location, and even the partner's name to prevent fraudulent claims. Separate tariffs exist for weddings, photo shoots, and graduation ceremonies. Calculations are based on data from the Japan Meteorological Agency, ensuring objectivity. Interestingly, over 10 years, this policy gained significant popularity, with some cafes in Shibuya and Ginza incorporating its cost into their romantic packages. A date without risk. The Japanese emphasis on precision and predictability has extended beyond daily life, into the realm of emotions. The outcome has been not only charming, but also financially beneficial. The rate of date cancellations due to weather has dramatically reduced. The sixth fact. In Nicaragua, it's possible to be jailed for attempting to bribe the spirit of a lake. During the 2000s, a group of farmers residing near Lake Cocibolca conducted a water-calming ritual, casting a pig, a basket of maize, and a bottle of rum into the lake. They believed this to be an ancient tradition aimed at placating La Sirena, a mythical woman fish who, according to legend, punishes those who take water without permission. Trouble arose when one participant filmed the ritual and shared it online. A week later, the prosecutor's office initiated a criminal case citing water pollution, sanitary code violations, and, notably, an attempt to interact with a supernatural entity outside the official licensing framework. The charge, while absurd-sounding, had legal basis. Local laws designate water bodies as national assets, requiring any actions impacting water usage to be authorized by the authorities. The trial extended for nearly a year. Ultimately, the case was dismissed for lack of evidence, but the precedent remains. Locals now perform rituals without offerings and avoid cameras. A sign now stands on the lakeshore. Coordinate any spiritual actions with the municipality. This sign is genuine. A photograph can be found on Google Maps. Seventh fact. A law in Lebanon formally allows the kidnapping of a woman, provided it results in marriage. This law dates back to the colonial period, when French law was augmented by local traditions. Until recently, a clause in the nation's criminal code stipulated, if a man kidnaps a woman intending marriage and marries her, the criminal proceedings are terminated. Supporters cite the protection of honor. Human rights advocates argue it's institutionalized violence. Instances occurred. In 2012, a marriage took place at a police station to circumvent imprisonment. Only in 2017, due to public pressure, did Parliament abolish this provision. Nevertheless, it persists in societal attitudes, particularly in remote regions, where kidnapping for marriage is viewed not as a crime, but as an extreme courtship method. Amidst modernization efforts, this appears as an anachronism entrenched in language and customs. Interestingly, the term kidnapping in Lebanese Arabic is frequently replaced with the milder removal, as if referring to an object rather than a person. Fact number 8. A department dedicated to hairdressing artistry continues to operate within a medical university in Hungary. Situated in Szeged, it officially bears the title Department of Trichology and Applied Aesthetics. While formerly a component of the Faculty of Medical Technologies, the curriculum practically trains students in hair cutting, coloring, scalp diagnosis, and client interaction. The three-year program involves examinations, a diploma project, and practical experience. A compulsory course in client psychology and stress management is included. The rationale being, a hairdresser is the first confessor, and you need to know how to handle it. The department's origins trace back to post-war Hungary, where the profession held significant social importance. In the 1960s, a research center evolved from a vocational school, subsequently integrating into the university system. Currently, the department produces approximately 30 graduates annually. The faculty comprises not only medical professionals, but also theatrical makeup artists, chemical technologists, and even former diplomats. A course titled Visual Code of Identity explores how hairstyles communicate affiliation, status, and emotional state. This isn't illogical. It reflects Eastern European realities where a razor and biopsychology are bridged by a single diploma. Ninth fact: India has trains operating without a predetermined timetable. Their departure is contingent upon passenger occupancy. This isn't disorganized. It's a well-planned logistical strategy, particularly effective in sparsely populated rural areas where scheduled services would be financially unviable. These are known as ghost trains. Officially classified as reserve trains, they actually provide regular service based on passenger demand. Routes are generally short, 30 to 50 kilometers, connecting villages and district centers. Operation isn't always by the National Railway, but sometimes by regional authorities or private operators. The process is as follows. Passengers assemble on the platform. The driver awaits the dispatcher's signal, and departure is authorized only when approximately half the carriages are filled. In certain instances, especially during harvest season, trains may run nonstop to avoid interfering with freight schedules. A case in point is the Madhapur-Jamtara line in Jharkhand. Local residents report departures ranging from 7 in the morning to 3 in the afternoon, determined not by a schedule, but by the volume of goods, carts, and sacks of produce. A sign at the station states, "Next train, when ready." Paradoxically, these seemingly unpredictable services are considered highly reliable. A departing train is guaranteed to reach its destination. 10th fact: in Swiss apartment buildings, it's forbidden to flush the toilet after 10 o'clock in the evening. This isn't a criminal code violation, it's a local housing regulation, managed at the cantonal or municipal level. The rationale is straightforward. After 2200 hours, any noise disturbing neighbors is a breach of the peace. The noise of a toilet flush, particularly in older buildings with metal pipes, is included. Naturally, not everyone observes this rule strictly, but it's officially in place. There have been instances of neighbors calling the police on nighttime bathroom users. A notable case happened in Basel in 2016, where a resident received a fine for repeated disturbance of the peace, with active nighttime toilet flushing specifically cited. Consequently, architects of new buildings are incorporating quiet bathrooms featuring silent flushing systems, enhanced soundproofing, and warning signs. It's almost science fiction. A nation where noise is restricted designs toilets like soundproof studios. The priority is undisturbed sleep for residents. Fact number 11. Suel, a town in Chile, is officially without streets. Situated high in the Andes, it was established as a mining community to serve the El Teniente copper mine. Its unique characteristic is the total lack of roads as we understand them. Movement between buildings, homes, hospital, school, church, is accomplished by stairs. More than 300 staircases connect the different levels of the town, built on a mountainside, resembling a multi-level anthill. Beginning in the early 20th century, the American company Braden Copper funded its construction, and the settlement grew as a self-contained industrial colony. The mine was below, while living quarters, shops, and a movie theater were above. All goods, from food to building materials, were transported up inclined railway platforms. Cars never entered the town. Roads in Sewell are still non-existent. Following the mine's nationalization in the 1970s, the population gradually declined, but the architecture remains. Colorful houses, minor social clubs, and immense staircases. Now deserted, it is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Tourists arrive via a narrow mountain road, and from there, only by foot, only uphill. It's ironic that a town built for progress became a testament to life without automobiles. 12th fact. A law existed in Canada permitting the official ending of a marriage via a newspaper advertisement. This practice began in the 19th century when, in Canada's remote regions, obtaining a divorce through the courts was a complex and costly undertaking. An alternative was a published notice of intent in a large newspaper. A husband would publish a statement declaring that his wife left the marital bed without cause, and if she didn't return within 30 days, he could consider the marriage terminated. In certain provinces, these announcements held legal weight, particularly if uncontested. Prominent newspapers like the Globe and Mail, Toronto Star, and La Presse featured these notices in dedicated sections, alongside advertisements for items such as yarn and bicycles. Some announcements were quite formal. My lawful wife, Suzanne M., left my home in Saskatchewan on the 2nd of February. I request that she be considered no longer belonging to me. Only in the mid-20th century did these announcements cease to have legal standing, following the federal government's standardization of divorce proceedings. Nevertheless, thousands of these publications are preserved in archives. Therefore, numerous Canadians genuinely dissolved their marriages through newspaper columns, much like returning an unwanted item to a shop. The 13th fact. In South Korea, a unique age calculation system was in place, differing significantly from international norms. Prior to 2023, newborns were automatically considered 1 year old upon birth, and all citizens added a year to their age on January 1st, irrespective of their birth date. This custom originated from ancient Korean views of life as a cyclical process, with pregnancy being equivalent to the first year. A child born on December 31st, for instance, would be considered 2 years old on January 1st. This led to many Koreans possessing a dual age, a domestic, Korean age, and an international age aligned with Western standards. Following extensive debate and public pressure, the government repealed this system. Since June 2023, age is calculated exclusively from the date of birth. This resulted in millions of Koreans experiencing an official age reduction of 1 or 2 years on their documents. Social media platforms were filled with posts such as, "I'm 28 again," or "dropped 2 years without going to the gym." This administrative change also held practical significance. Age in Korea influences pensions, military conscription, school admissions, and even social etiquette. For many, this was not merely a symbolic adjustment, but a substantial alteration in their social standing. 14th fact, Liechtenstein offers the unique opportunity to rent the entire country. This includes its streets, national emblem, police services, and even the keys to the castle. This unusual service began in 2010 following an agreement between the local government and an American company specializing in exclusive event planning. The service caters to corporations seeking unique team-building experiences and private individuals who dream of experiencing monarchical life. For a relatively small fee of approximately $700,000 per day, the renter receives comprehensive services: a personal greeting from the mayor, the ability to rename streets for a day, the issuance of special coat of arms mail, tours of Vaduz Castle, and access to the ceremonial guard. Initially, the announcement was met with skepticism, but in 2011, Liechtenstein's Ministry of Tourism confirmed the country's availability for rent subject to certain limitations. Citizens' lives remain unaffected, government operations continue as usual, and the rental applies only to the atmospheric and protocol aspects. The first client was a wealthy Hong Kong businessman who celebrated his birthday there with 50 guests. The celebration included a costume ball, a medieval banquet, and a nighttime tour of local wineries. Critics labeled it simulating royal power, but Liechtenstein responded with humor, suggesting that if someone wishes to feel like a prince, why not allow it, especially if it benefits the national economy. The 15th fact. Zambia once had a government department popularly known as the Ministry of National Happiness. Its official name was the Ministry of Religious Affairs and National Guidance. The informal name arose from its specific mandate to monitor the spiritual and moral condition of the Zambian people. President Edgar Lungu established it in 2016, believing the state should govern not just the economy, defense, and health, but also the nation's emotional well-being. Its duties included supervising religious organizations, fighting spiritual corruption, upholding traditional values, and organizing large-scale prayers for the nation. Quarterly reports charting national morale based on surveys and church activity were published. A 2018 report stated that Lusaka's Moral Stability Index rose by 3.5% following street preaching campaigns. The ministry even suggested a National Peace Day, a holiday demanding silence and meditation. While abolished in 2021, the ministry's concept endured. Some functions were transferred elsewhere, and national happiness remains a term in parliamentary discussions. In a nation with a third of its population in poverty, this sounds both hopeful and ironic. Nevertheless, it was an official initiative with a budget and formal structure. The 16th fact. In the U.S. state of Nevada, it remains legal to officially register a city with no inhabitants. Jean, situated 50 kilometers from Las Vegas, is one such example. Its population is 0. Yet, it possesses a name, a zip code, official status, and even a mayor appointed by proxy. The explanation? Businessmen acquired land for a logistics center. To streamline taxation and access federal subsidies, they registered it as a municipality. Nevada law permits this, provided there's a charter, income, land lease or casinos, for instance, and a temporary representative to sign documents. Jean lacks schools, homes, and hospitals. It consists of warehouses, a gas station, and a few slot machines. Employees commute for work and then return to Vegas. Officially, however, it's a city. It has a coat of arms, a charter, and even a symbolic annual report detailing achievements like installing a new sign or repainting a fire hydrant. This is practically a legal joke, illustrating American bureaucratic adaptability. Where else could one establish a city without constructing a single dwelling?
Their judicial system, a unique punishment exists. Compulsory listening to classical Persian poetry. This isn't hyperbole. In 2014, a court in Shiraz, instead of imprisonment, sentenced a group of teenagers apprehended for inappropriate behavior on TikTok to spiritual reformation. This involved daily readings and listenings of Hafez, Saadi, and Rumi, followed by essay writing. The verdict sparked controversy in the local media. Some praised the soft power of culture, while others viewed it as mockery, arguing that poetry loses its essence as punishment. Nevertheless, the judge maintained his stance, stating the aim was not to suppress but to guide. A similar case occurred in Tehran in 2016, where a man who offended a woman was ordered to recite Omar Khayyam's poetry publicly in a park each morning for a month. Significantly, these sentences are classified as alternative punishments, applicable in the Iranian legal system when the offense is deemed moral, not criminal. Human rights reports document numerous such instances, including mandatory attendance at philosophical discussions, lectures on Islamic history, and calligraphy classes. Therefore, in a nation with many restrictions, punishment transforms into a subtle form of instruction, with rhyme but without free will.
18th fact. Norwegian prisons in some instances are designed to resemble comfortable hostels, providing inmates with access to amenities such as a stove, a television set, and even keys to their individual living quarters. A prime example is Bastøy Island, situated 50 kilometers from Oslo. This ecological prison accommodates approximately 80 individuals convicted of less serious offenses. The facility lacks features typically associated with prisons, such as barbed wire fencing, armed guards, and solitary confinement. Instead, inmates reside in wooden cottages, participate in farm work and fishing, attend philosophy courses, and prepare their own meals. Each inmate is given keys to their private cottage, contributes to the creation of a duty roster, and has access to a ferry schedule for travel to the mainland for appointments such as court appearances or medical examinations. The stated objective is rehabilitation rather than punishment. The prison administration emphasizes, "We don't isolate, we socialize." The recidivism rate among former inmates of Bastøy is among the lowest in Europe, at less than 20%. By contrast, the recidivism rate in the United States exceeds 60%. It is important to note that this facility does not house individuals convicted of violent crimes such as murder or rape. Rather, the inmates are typically convicted of offenses such as fraud, robbery, or tax evasion. A former inmate described his experience in an interview as follows: "It was like a long summer camp with a strong sense of guilt." Critics argue that the system is excessively lenient, but Norwegians believe that society benefits when individuals are released from prison without resentment and with a restored sense of well-being. Furthermore, the island is officially designated as a green zone, with 100% of its energy needs met through wind and solar power.
Fact number 19. A specialized police unit in Egypt focuses on the protection of ancient artifacts. Its responsibilities extend beyond museum security to encompass investigations into thefts, counterfeiting, and even alleged magical interference with historical relics. Founded in 1984, this department, officially known as the Department for the Protection of Heritage and Antiquities, maintains a widespread network of agents nationwide, including informants in rural areas where locals occasionally uncover ancient objects after heavy rains. High-profile cases include not only attempts to smuggle sarcophagi and statues, but also the sale of counterfeit amulets purportedly carrying curses. In 2008, a man was arrested in Giza for selling a fake Tutankhamun's box crudely fashioned from a fruit crate in a garage. In 2019, a family was detained in Luxor for attempting to pass off a homemade gypsum sarcophagus as an artifact from the 18th dynasty. The investigative techniques employed blend archaeological and detective methods, searches, soil analysis, and examination of soil samples and ancient pigments. A report details how agents tracked a criminal gang using traces of sand on their shoes, matching the soil at an excavation site. This is essentially the reverse of Indiana Jones. Instead of searching for artifacts, they protect them from fraudsters. In Thailand, monkeys are official participants in a yearly festival in Lopburi starting in 1989. Known as the Monkey Buffet Festival, it began as a tourist initiative but has grown into a major cultural event. Huge tables are placed in the city center, filled with pineapples, watermelons, bananas, and sweet cakes, up to 2 tons of food daily. Approximately 2,000 monkeys, coming in family groups, attend this feast. They scale statues, fight over corn, examine visitors, steal glasses, and occasionally even do somersaults into fountains. Locals have a relaxed attitude, believing monkeys bring good fortune and ward off evil spirits. Schools, businesses, and the army help with preparations. Soldiers assist with setup and security. Thousands of tourists visit, and hotels warn guests, beware of primate theft. One year, a monkey stole a tourist's passport from a backpack, taking it to a temple and tearing the pages. The passport was lost, but the story was widely reported. So, in a nation where the spiritual and material intertwine in celebration, a monkey becomes more than a symbol, a full participant in the festivities. A 21st fact: a ban on chess existed in Saudi Arabia until recently.
Although not formally written into law, in 2016, the country's Grand Mufti publicly stated that chess breeds enmity among people, distracts from prayer, and encourages gambling. This declaration sparked controversy. International sports organizations voiced their opposition, and a unique campaign emerged within the nation. Chess players started sharing photos of their games on social media using the hashtag #ChessIsNotASin. This ban wasn't a new phenomenon. In the 1980s, religious authorities attempted to classify chess as a gambling game, particularly after a fight erupted at a tournament in one city. Nevertheless, chess persisted in the country. It thrived underground, in universities, community centers, and even some cafes. While official tournaments were absent, private clubs continued to operate. A significant shift occurred in 2017 when Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman launched reforms. And as part of an initiative to modernize the image, the chess ban was effectively repealed. In 2018, Riyadh hosted the World Rapid and Blitz Championship, a momentous occasion. A nation where chess was practically forbidden now held a championship sanctioned by the International Chess Federation. It's noteworthy that the victor was a representative from Russia, a country where chess was once deemed a bourgeois pastime. Fact 22. Australia has a system of postboxes specifically designed for penguins. This isn't figurative language. It's a real project developed by environmental conservationists on Phillip Island near Melbourne. This island is home to a colony of little penguins, the only penguin species globally that doesn't grow taller than 40 centimeters. In 1985, the colony's numbers began to drastically decrease. The penguins were losing their nests due to soil erosion and predation by foxes. Scientists experimented by creating artificial shelters, concrete structures shaped like mailboxes, round entrances with protective canopies. These were placed on the coastal slopes and monitored for a season. 6 months later, the results were surprising. Over 60% of the penguins adopted these boxes as permanent homes. The project has since expanded significantly. Over 1,000 of these shelters are now installed, many equipped with motion sensors and thermal cameras for observation. Local school children decorate the boxes with drawings and names. George's House, nest number 207, and people can adopt a box through donations to the Nature Center. Ironically, these artificial boxes are more durable and reliable than natural burrows. They don't leak, collapse, or suffer from snake infestations. Therefore, in Australia, the only place outside Antarctica where penguins are found, a concrete box has become a symbol of home comfort for these small birds. The 23rd fact. In France, one can officially file a lawsuit against cockroaches. This is not metaphorical. It refers to actual collective lawsuits against building owners who fail to provide sanitary conditions. Cases have been documented in Paris, Lyon, and Marseille where residents filed lawsuits including violation of the right to a peaceful life due to parasite infestation as a claim. Some cases included photographs and samples in jars labeled "found in the kitchen," emerged from an electrical outlet. The judges, of course, did not consider the cockroaches legal entities, but fines levied against the owners reached tens of thousands of euros. In 2019, one such case gained significant attention. The municipality declared the building a biological risk zone and mandated the management company to compensate each resident for damages and for moral suffering caused by the constant presence of insects. The unusual aspect of the case was heightened by the plaintiff's lawyer's use of the phrase infrastructural terror, which was recorded in the court documents. Sociologists characterize these cases as a symptom of urban fatigue. When systems fail, people seek someone to hold accountable. Therefore, the cockroach became a party to legal proceedings, and the court ruling became a means of fighting for decent living conditions. The 24th fact. Bolivian law grants women of indigenous descent the right to take leave from work to commune with the spirits of their ancestors. This provision, officially termed the right to a spiritual break, is incorporated into Article 30 of the nation's new constitution enacted in 2009. This constitution establishes the status of the indigenous population and allows for the practice of traditional customs, including religious ceremonies, within the framework of labor law. This practically means an Aymara or Quechua woman may take leave for a legitimate reason, such as participating in a Pachamama, earth goddess, Thanksgiving ceremony, or undergoing a cleansing ritual. In certain regions, particularly mountainous ones, such leaves are routinely granted, and employers are obligated to accommodate them. A major trade union in the country has even created a standard application form where the reason is stated as participation in a spiritual practice recognized by the community. Authorities stress this is not a privilege, but a restoration of historical justice. Significantly, administrative reports show that such leaves improve employees' psychological well-being and decrease workplace conflict. Consequently, in a country where indigenous cultures were long marginalized, they are now officially recognized grounds for leave. This is not an anomaly, it's the standard practice, officially sanctioned. The 25th fact: in Singapore, chewing gum remains under a strict legal ban, carrying criminal penalties. This prohibition, implemented in 1992, symbolizes Singapore's approach to maintaining urban cleanliness and order. Anything detrimental to aesthetics or infrastructure is removed. The issue began with chewing gum found obstructing door sensors in subway stations, disrupting automated systems. Annual cleaning costs were estimated in the millions of dollars. The government responded with a radical solution: a total ban. The import, sale, and even public consumption of chewing gum became illegal. An exception was granted only in 2004 due to pressure from the United States following free trade negotiations. Now, only medicinal chewing gum containing nicotine or calcium is allowed, requiring a prescription, purchase from a pharmacy, and passport presentation. Those caught chewing without justification face hefty fines. Sellers face jail time. There have been documented cases of tourists detained at the airport for possessing chewing gum in their luggage. Singaporeans often quip, "Chewing gum is like a weapon. It seems small, but it must be used carefully." The city's cleanliness is remarkable: spotless sidewalks and pristine public transportation. The cost of this order is the abandonment of a common habit. Instead of cleaning up litter, as in other countries, Singapore prevents it. The 26th fact: in Czechia, a government position exists, the official water taster. This isn't figurative language. It's a technical specialist who routinely samples water from the public water supply, by mouth. In a nation where beer is a national treasure, water receives equivalent reverence. Following the reforms of the 1990s, when control of utilities partially shifted to private entities, a need for independent expertise emerged. This led to the creation of the Organoleptic Control Service, an organization whose personnel visit wells, intakes, and distribution points to personally assess water quality through taste, smell, and appearance. Officially termed organoleptic inspectors, they are informally known as water sommeliers. Jan Novak, one such inspector, stated in a Czech newspaper interview that he can distinguish Moravian water from Prague water based on subtle mineral notes. The job is demanding: 8-hour shifts, rigorous tasting protocols, and breaks between samples to maintain receptor sensitivity. A single inspector might taste up to 600 samples monthly. Each sample is meticulously documented. Interestingly, internal guidelines permit a slight sulfur odor, provided it's of natural origin and short-lived. Therefore, in a country where water is not merely a utility but a cultural element, its quality is assessed both scientifically and sensorially. While some savor wine, others savor tap water, with equal dedication. Fact number 27. Opera was officially prohibited in Turkmenistan as a musical genre during the 2000s. The explanation given by President Saparmurat Niyazov was simple.
Opera and ballet are foreign to Turkmen culture. This decision surprised even those familiar with the president's, known as Turkmenbashi, unconventional edicts. The National Theater underwent a transformation. Its repertoire changed to focus on folk performances, musical dramas featuring local instruments, and celebratory events, highlighting national accomplishments. Musicians were forced to adapt. Some switched to popular music. Others left the country. Conservatory students studied classical music secretly or in other nations. Some graduation recitals were held in private residences with windows covered. There were also ridiculous occurrences. In 2005, a symphony orchestra performed Mozart, presenting it as a traditional European suite without a libretto. The band began to ease only after Niyazov's passing. In 2009, opera returned to the Ashgabat stage, unofficially, but with the authorities' implied consent. In 2019, Carmen was even staged, reinterpreted with a Turkmen girl from a border area as the protagonist. Yet, there is still no official revocation of the ban. The irony lies in the fact that the country that banned opera as foreign eventually embraced it, under the guise of its own interpretation, with an orchestra, but without mentioning Verdi. 28th fact. In Argentina, one can legally be named Maradona. This applies not only to official documentation, but also to religious identity. This is because of the so-called Church of Maradona, an unregistered yet officially recognized public organization established in 1998. It was founded by devoted fans of the legendary soccer player who created their own calendar system, counting years from the first year after the Hand of God goal. The main church is in Rosario, and the number of followers worldwide exceeds 100,000. They have 10 commandments, including love football above all. Their symbol is a boot with a cross, and they even have a baptism in the name of Diego ceremony performed in children's soccer schools. When asked by reporters about the difference between a joke and faith, one founder responded, "It's a religion for those who have lost their bearings but not their faith in a miracle with a ball." In the 2010s, the church attempted registration in the Register of Non-Traditional Faiths, but was rejected, citing religious parity. Following Maradona's death in 2020, activity surged. Pilgrimages to his home commenced, museums opened, and there were even attempts at canonization within internal symbolic rituals. Formally, it's folklore. Substantively, it's a phenomenon. A nation where soccer surpasses politics has created the world's first cult, where number 10 is not just a number, but a sacred symbol. The 29th fact. In Sweden, a religion devoted to copying has received official recognition. This religion is known as the Copymism Mission, and its creators view the act of copying information as sacred. The movement began in 2010, when Isak Jurland, a philosophy student, posted a blog entry expressing his belief that copying and distributing knowledge constituted a form of spiritual enlightenment. 1 year later, he registered the religious movement, establishing a charter that included symbols of faith, Ctrl+C and Ctrl+V, descriptions of rituals, file sharing, and an ethical code promoting the undistorted sharing of information. Swedish law prevents the state from judging the authenticity of religious beliefs unless they violate existing laws. In 2012, the tax agency officially recognized copymism as a religion. This led to a wide range of responses, from ridicule in the media to serious philosophical debates in universities. Jurland emphasized that this was not a joke. We live in an era where information has become a new form of the sacred. Copying is not theft, but prayer. The church has its own organizational structure, altar operators, truth translators. A key ritual is the copy service, a mass file exchange accompanied by box music and modem sounds. At its height, the movement had approximately 5,000 members. While activity has decreased, the official recognition persists. Consequently, Sweden became the first country where file copying transitioned from a commonplace act to a religious rite, complete with legal protection and philosophical underpinnings. The 30th fact.
Belgium offers a unique governmental program for combating loneliness. This is not a figurative expression, but a real service provided by the Centrum voor Algemeen Welzijnswerk, Center for General Welfare. Their Lonely Friend project connects individuals experiencing emotional isolation with specially trained companions. This social service is free of charge and does not involve medical treatment. The companion's role is simply to provide regular companionship, listening, occasional outings, or assistance with errands like shopping. The matching process takes up to 1 month, involving questionnaires, interviews, and a trial meeting in a neutral setting. Pairs are formed for a 3-month period, renewable if both parties agree. Launched in 2014 as a pilot program in Ghent, the initiative yielded impressive results: a 30% reduction in anxiety levels and psychiatric consultations among those aged 70 and above. The program has since expanded nationwide. Although the concept is not entirely novel, Belgium's approach is distinctive. Companions receive modest compensation, undergo training, and submit reports detailing their interactions. One such report contained the statement, "We discussed cherry pie and suddenly felt we were living again." This demonstrates that in a highly individualistic society, structured friendship can effectively alleviate loneliness. The 31st fact: Iceland has a database, Íslendingabók, Book of Icelanders, designed to determine if potential partners are related. It covers nearly the entire history of the Icelandic population, beginning in the 9th century. The reason for its creation is genetic, not romantic. Iceland's population of around 400,000 is predominantly descended from approximately 900 original settlers. This results in a genetically homogeneous society, making accidental kinship in romantic relationships a real possibility. In 1997, geneticist Kari Stephenson and programmer Fredrik Skulason launched Íslendingabók as an online project, including over 1 million names with family connections, tracing back to the first settlements. All citizens can access the system by entering their identification number and that of their potential partner. A warning is issued if the program detects common ancestors within 7 generations. A developer recounted a wedding where the couple discovered a shared great-great-great-grandmother. Though not a divorce-worthy event, it left a lingering unease. A student joke at the University of Reykjavik arose: database first, then kiss. Initially a scientific project, Íslendingabók has become integrated into everyday Icelandic ethics. Checking for kinship is not suspicion, but a social norm. In a land of volcanoes and sagas, technology helps prevent overly close relationships. 32nd fact: the Democratic Republic of Congo still officially allows the payment of taxes with natural products. In distant areas with limited access to monetary transactions, the government accepts eggs, bananas, goats, cassava, and fish as payment. This practice dates back to the Belgian colonial era, when farmers were required to contribute a portion of their harvest as a tax in kind. Following independence in 1960, the system wasn't abolished but adapted. Legislation permits local governments to establish alternative payment methods in the absence of sufficient banking infrastructure. In practice, a citizen presents 2 buckets of corn to the administration and receives a tax receipt for land tax. Sometimes, these products are directly transferred to school cafeterias or hospitals. A noteworthy incident occurred in one region. A man paid his taxes with 2 live chickens, but one escaped before registration, prompting a question about partial payment acceptance. The chicken was eventually recovered, and the tax was accepted. Economists hold differing views. Some see it as an anachronism, others as a sign of adaptability. Essentially, it's a functional system where banking is unavailable, but harvests are plentiful. Even if the receipt smells of mango, it remains legally valid. Fact number 33. In Madagascar, family burial sites serve as locations for annual picnics. This is the Famadihana tradition, meaning the turning of the bones. During this ritual, relatives unearth ancestral remains, wrap them in fresh cloth, and dance with them. This isn't shocking or savage, it's an ancient ritual holding sacred significance. Malagasy belief dictates that the soul departs the body only after years of repose, and each Famadihana hastens this process. The ceremony becomes a multi-day festival. Many people gather, music plays, food is prepared, and ancestors' bodies, carefully wrapped in silk, are brought from tombs for airing. They are carried on shoulders, spoken to, danced with, and photographed. This is allowed. Sometimes, relatives even place current newspapers nearby so the ancestor remains informed. The ceremony occurs every 7 to 9 years, its cost often exceeding the family's yearly income. Loans have been taken to fund Famadihana. Authorities have attempted to curb the practice due to health risks, particularly during disease outbreaks, but locals resist, viewing it as a respectful act strengthening familial bonds. An elder stated to journalists, "We take care of the dead because they are our flesh and our memory." Therefore, in Madagascar, the line between life and death isn't a barrier, but a stage, with dances, traditions, and the aroma of barbecued meat. Polska ma hundreds of streets named after animals. This trend started in the 1990s during reforms that saw the widespread replacement of Soviet and party-affiliated street names. Citizens of Warsaw, Krakow, and other cities submitted many petitions suggesting neutral or positive names. This led to the creation of streets named Hedgehog, Cat, Sheep, Bee, and even Snail. Near Gdansk, there's Badger Street, and in Lodz, there's Peacock Street. In 2008, a whole district on the outskirts of Wrocław was given animal names: Beaver, Bear, Owl, and Unicorn Streets, even though unicorns have never existed in Poland. The municipal authorities approved, viewing the animal names as symbols of care, comfort, and a way to overcome ideological tension. Residents quickly adapted. Children found it easier to remember addresses, and postal workers made fewer errors. The practice later expanded. Some schools held votes to name new streets, with animals consistently winning. School children inaugurated Giraffe Street and affixed the street sign themselves. These streets are now a distinctive feature of Poland's urban outskirts, frequently photographed and shared on Instagram, though sometimes the signs are stolen. Cat Street signs are the most frequent targets of theft. It's ironic but true. In a nation with a complex history and significant political division, animal names have proven to be the most harmonious way to label the road home.
35th fact: Myanmar's currency depicts a rooster, elephant, lion, and fish, but no political figures. This stems from a long-standing policy against including portraits of leaders on banknotes. The rationale isn't humility, but rather superstition and a fear of a banknote curse. During the 1980s, the nation's leader, General Ne Win, unexpectedly removed nearly all existing banknotes and introduced new ones with denominations divisible by 19. This was attributed to astrology. The general's personal astrologer asserted that 19 was his lucky number. The consequence was economic ruin, leaving countless individuals without their savings. Consequently, the populace developed distrust of banknotes, viewing images of people as potential harbingers of misfortune. Later, when the possibility of reinstating portraits on currency was debated, a group of monks presented a joint plea to the Ministry of Finance. Don't risk it. The spirit of money doesn't like faces. Subsequently, banknotes began featuring animals, pagodas, bridges, and mythical creatures. The Chinte lion, a protector of Buddhist temples, enjoys particular popularity. One series includes a barely perceptible temple silhouette alongside the lion. Rubbing this is believed to bring good fortune in business. Tourists frequently acquire these banknotes as charms. Therefore, in a country marked by coups and decrees, money has remained a realm of symbols, animals, and spirits, not people.
36th fact: in Brazil, it is legally possible to register a marriage with oneself. This practice, known as sologamia, has been legally recognized in several states, including Sao Paulo and Rio de Janeiro. The process involves a complete wedding ceremony, signing a contract with oneself, and receiving a symbolic marriage certificate. The initiative originated with women's rights activists who championed self-acceptance and freedom from societal pressures.
In 2016, Laura Medeiros, an accountant from Belo Horizonte, performed the first such ceremony, wearing a white dress with a ring, applauded by friends, and making vows to herself. Since then, the number of sologamists has increased. Agencies now organize these ceremonies, offering all-inclusive packages, and some hotels provide discounts. A market for related accessories has also developed. Double rings, mirrors engraved with "You are my everything," and anniversary cards addressed to oneself. Critics label it a cult of narcissism, but participants view it as an act of self-empowerment, particularly for those who have experienced divorce or trauma. Legally, this union does not confer inheritance or tax benefits, but the records are maintained in civil registry databases. Therefore, in a country with strong family-based wedding traditions, a new model has emerged. The bride, groom, and audience are one and the same. And this marriage will undoubtedly continue until one tires of oneself.
37th fact. Canadian citizenship can be obtained for correcting a grammatical mistake in an official document. This precedent was set in 2008. Vlad Horvat, a Romanian immigrant, found an error in an immigration application. The English version lacked an article that changed the legal meaning of the section on work experience. Horvat wrote to the Ministry of Citizenship and Immigration with an explanation, examples, and references to Oxford Standard Grammar. He received a response 2 months later, thanks, an admission of the mistake, and a proposal for a faster naturalization process. Horvat was 2 months short of the required residency time, but the ministry made an exception. Internal guidelines allowed rewarding acts of special initiative, and the Romanian immigrant's case showed how attention to detail can overcome bureaucracy. The story was publicized, and the ministry received letters from other immigrants claiming to have found errors. Some were contrived, but one case, involving the translation of the French phrase preuve de résidence, led to updated forms. Canada, a country governed by law and grammar, thus reinforced its reputation as a place where even punctuation can alter a person's fate.
38th fact. The village of Badu Dalam, located in the Banten province of Indonesia, is home to the Badu people. Around 5,000 people reside there, and they consciously abstain from all modern conveniences, electricity, mobile phones, televisions, and internet access. This choice stems from their religious beliefs. The Badu believe that technology disrupts the harmony between humanity, nature, and the spirits of their ancestors. The villagers wear only traditional, undyed cotton clothing, travel on foot, construct homes without nails, and avoid all synthetic materials. Tourists are permitted entry, but with stipulations. Phones must be left at the village border, photography is forbidden, and overnight stays require the elders' permission. Government attempts to electrify the village have been met with resistance. Even the National ID Card program has faced challenges. Many Badu refuse ID cards, believing that a name fixed on plastic loses its power. Interestingly, there's an outer ring to the community, Badu Luar, where residents utilize some modern amenities. They serve as a transition between the high-tech world and the world where cloth is still made from tree bark. Therefore, in a nation of 260 million, where TikTok is almost a religion, there exists a place where Wi-Fi is unknown and unwanted.
Fact 39. Germany has an officially recognized profession, the apology designer. This service is sought after in legal, business, and personal contexts. The specialist's role is to help clients apologize effectively, correctly, respectfully, and with consideration for the subtleties of German etiquette. The profession arose in the early 2000s and aughts when large corporations realized that poorly worded apologies often resulted in legal action. A single misplaced word, and the client perceives the apology as a formality rather than genuine remorse. A group of lawyers and psycholinguists then established the consulting firm Entschuldigungskultur GmbH, Culture of Apologies. They started providing letter templates, training sessions, and later, direct representation of companies. Over time, the service expanded into the private sector. Couples use apology specialists during difficult divorces, parents in conflicts with teachers, neighbors in noise disputes. The service is offered in written, a letter with careful word selection, and verbal, a personal apology including body language, tone, and pauses formats. Specializations within the profession include medical errors, dismissals, and family conflicts. A leading expert, Dr. Michael Kramer, asserts, "A good apology is an act of precision. It should quell emotion, not incite a reciprocal response." Therefore, in a country prioritizing order over compromise, the ability to apologize effectively has become a paid service. Nigeria has a law penalizing unfounded accusations of witchcraft. Article 210 of the Nigerian Criminal Code, defining public declarations of witchcraft, prescribes a fine or other penalty for publicly accusing someone of witchcraft without evidence. The aim is to safeguard women and children from the widespread practice of witch hunts in certain areas. While the law dates back to the mid-20th century, its vigorous enforcement started only in the last 2 decades, prompted by a rise in violence, expulsion of adolescents from homes, beatings of women, and village cleansing ceremonies. A significant case unfolded in Calabar in 2009. A man who labeled his neighbor a devil's conduit after her goat twice trespassed onto his property received a fine. The court stressed, belief does not exempt one from the law. This led to the emergence of human rights organizations overseeing the anti-witchcraft legislation. One such organization, the Child's Rights and Rehabilitation Network, releases reports, operates a helpline, and provides refuge. Cities now display billboards reading, "Accusation without proof is a crime." Thus, in a nation where belief in the supernatural is common, the government seeks to channel even the fight against witchcraft through legal channels. In this fight, words are also weapons subject to legal repercussions. Fact number 41. A popular radio station in South Africa broadcasts in 31 languages. Radio Sonder Grenze was established as an experiment in multilingual broadcasting and national unity. Initially broadcasting in Afrikaans and English, the station encountered protests from listeners who associated these languages with colonialism and apartheid. The station's management responded by implementing a policy of broadcasting programs, news, and music in all officially recognized languages of South Africa each week. This includes Zulu, Xhosa, Sesotho, Tswana, Tsonga, Venda, and others. Sign language for the deaf is also included via a video stream with interpretation. The resulting broadcast schedule is unique. A morning talk show in Xhosa, an afternoon cooking show in Sesotho, and evening performances by local Afrikaans rock bands. Some programs are translated, others are not. The goal is to foster a sense of belonging even if complete understanding is not achieved. Station journalists often say, "We never get bored." Even if you didn't understand half the broadcast, you at least learned how another language sounds. In 2017, the station received a UNESCO award for its contribution to linguistic diversity. In a nation where language can be both a barrier and a bridge, the station serves as a symbol of reconciliation. Until recently, in Iran, dolls without noses were sold with official approval. They served as an alternative to Barbie dolls, prohibited in the country as a tool of Western propaganda. During the 1990s, a government campaign promoting cultural self-identification led to a ban on Western toys, cartoons, and dolls, including Barbie, because of their unacceptable appearance. This ban prompted the creation of the Sarah and Dare dolls, a girl and boy dressed in traditional clothing, possessing traditional facial features, and notably lacking a defined nose. The designers explained this design choice as a way to avoid caricature and maintain the universality of the image. The public, however, nicknamed them noseless dolls. These dolls were packaged with quotes from poets and short biographies. Sarah, a schoolgirl who enjoys reading the Quran and drawing, and Dare, an athlete who dreams of becoming a doctor. Under conditions of cultural isolation, the dolls received official certification as toys that strengthen Islamic identity. Despite this, children preferred smuggled Barbie dolls, brought in secretly via Turkey and the UAE. The irony is that this attempt to create an alternative to Western dolls resulted in a counterculture more discussed by adults than played with by children. Currently, these noseless dolls are uncommon, but in Tehran, some antique shops still display Sara and Dare alongside dolls from the Shah's reign. New Zealand officially established the position of state wizard in the year 1990. Ian Brackenbury Channell, a British national who arrived in Christchurch in 1974, held this unique position for many years. He started with street performances, including absurd parades and what he called climate correction rituals. Initially seen as an eccentric, he eventually gained significant popularity, leading the municipality to acknowledge his contribution to the city's cultural landscape. In 1990, he received official certification as the State Wizard of New Zealand from the Mayor's office. His annual salary was approximately 16,000 New Zealand dollars. His responsibilities included promoting tourism, stimulating imagination, and fostering cultural awareness. He participated in various ceremonies, presented diplomas, and even performed cloud dispersal using a megaphone. Ian became a local legend. The government's decision to end his contract in 2021 sparked considerable public protest. Many argued that magic represents not just a budgetary item, but the very spirit of the nation. Ian himself famously declared, "A world without magic is an accounting report, and there is no love in a report." He continues to appear on the streets in his robe and staff, prompting tourists to ask, "Is he the real one?" Locals respond, "He's the only one we've ever chosen, not for promises, but for a miracle." Fact number 44. In Sierra Leone, there's a formal way to end a wedding agreement through radio broadcasts. In the country's rural regions, where internet and mobile phone connectivity are still luxuries, local radio stations function as versatile community hubs. They broadcast news and weather reports, but also announce the dissolution of engagements. This format is known as public disengagement and involves a brief announcement including the bride's name, the groom's name, their village, the reason for the separation, and often thanks for the time shared. A message example? Abdullah and Fatima from Bundu Junction has separated. By mutual consent, we wish each other peace and prosperity. These announcements hold near legal weight. They serve as evidence of a verbal agreement's termination should disputes arise concerning gift returns or bride price. Some stations have dedicated airtime for social divorces, with a regular announcer in one area using a calming voice for these announcements. Amusing incidents have occurred. One groom learned of his breakup by accidentally hearing the announcement on a bus. However, this system resolves many issues. In a society with limited access to formal paperwork, radio provides the quickest method to officially declare it's finished, without conflict, but definitively. Romania has schools dedicated to providing tourists with a Dracula-themed experience. This initiative started in the village of Bran in the 1980s when residents sought to leverage the Vlad the Impaler legend for tourism. The original castle proved too challenging to restore, leading to the creation of courses focused on the art of nightlife. The program encompasses acting, Gothic makeup application, vampire etiquette, and an introduction to Romanian folklore. The course takes place over a single night. Upon nightfall, participants receive robes, new names, undergo an initiation ceremony, and learn the rules of behavior within a supernatural society. These rules include a prohibition against mirror selfies, refraining from saying thank you before midnight, and the mandatory offering of wine to guests without inquiring about its contents. Initially conceived as a lighthearted venture, the project gained significant popularity following the release of Interview with a Vampire and similar Gothic films. Currently, a network of Școala de Noapte schools operates across 3 regions. Graduates receive diplomas reading "Completed the path into the night" and "The night completed its path in him." The government considers this a cultural activity and does not intervene. In this way, Romania, a nation with a complex and often tragic history, has transformed a dark legend into an educational and entertaining experience blending theatrical elements and wine appreciation. A unique tax exists in Laos, specifically levied on monks who are excessively talkative. This unusual tax isn't part of the national legal code, but is enforced within the individual rules of various monasteries, mainly those located in the northern regions. The rationale is straightforward. Silence is considered a virtue, while excessive speech disrupts the internal order and hinders meditation for others. A sign at the entrance of one monastery reads, "To chatter is to dissipate is to not purify is to pay." The system operates on a principle of voluntary contribution for rule infractions. The infraction isn't limited to loud speech. Excessive commentary in daily life also counts. Lengthy discussions, complaints, or jokes instead of concise responses. At Wat Sen Monastery in Luang Prabang, the abbot once implemented a fine of 1 cup of rice for every unnecessary word spoken after the evening bell. In a week, the monks collected nearly a full sack of rice, subsequently donated to a local children's charity. The mechanism is as simple as Buddhist ethics themselves. Speak if you wish, but remember the consequence. In today's world saturated with sound, this tax feels almost defiant. Nevertheless, it proves effective. Laotian monasteries remain places where silence represents not the lack of words, but a source of strength. A word now carrying a cost is less freely uttered. A unique system of forest traffic lights regulating puma movement is in operation in southern Chile. This initiative forms part of the City and Wild Nature Project, implemented in Punta Arenas, where urban development borders the natural habitat of these large felines. Pumas are native to Patagonia, but urban sprawl has led to increased puma sightings in suburban areas, initially at night and subsequently during daylight hours. Incidents have been recorded where pumas have scaled school fences, ventured onto roads, and been captured on vehicle dashcams. Rather than culling the predators, the authorities opted for integration. Thermal imaging cameras, tracking systems, and crucially, traffic lights on 3 main roads have been installed. Upon sensor detection of an approaching puma, the system activates a red light, concurrently sending an alert to a resident mobile application. An engineer involved in the project commented, "The puma doesn't understand it's in a city, but we can understand that we are in the forest." The program has been running since 2020 and has already prevented numerous accidents, protecting both human and animal life. Volunteers educate children, explaining that a red light on a forest road signifies the approach of a fanged animal. The project has gained international acclaim and is poised for expansion. The irony is that, unlike in most countries where such animals would be eliminated, in Chile, the pumas have been given a green light. More accurately, a red light to ensure their safe passage. The Netherlands has a tradition of reverse Santa, a Christmas figure who receives presents from children. His name is Zwarte Piet, or Black Pete, and his story originates in medieval lore. One account describes Piet as Santa Claus, the Dutch Santa Claus, helper, who maintains a list of well-behaved and misbehaved children, taking the latter away in a bag. But from the mid-20th century onwards, this custom evolved. In various cities, children started presenting Piet with gifts, apples, nuts, and thank you notes. This was a reaction to increasing criticism of Piet's image as a racist caricature. His customary portrayal with dark skin and large earrings provoked protests and international disapproval. In reaction, certain communities initiated a reimagining. Piet is no longer a disciplinarian, but a weary courier requiring assistance. Schools organize campaigns, Div Piet arrest. Children draw beds for him, gifting him tea and candies. Santa Claus himself offers thanks on national television. Without you, Piet wouldn't have survived December. Some cities even feature Piets of various colors, blue, green, and purple. Consequently, the old myth wasn't discarded, it was reinterpreted. Therefore, a nation adept at inhabiting land below sea level has also mastered the art of reducing social tension, not by dismantling established norms, but by redirecting the flow of traditions.
Borsellino, a town in the Asti province of Italy, is officially known as a city of laughter. Its citizens are required to laugh on specific days each year during the festival La Giornata della Risata Obbligatoria, the Day of Obligatory Laughter. This tradition began in the 1950s, post-war, when the mayor declared, "If nothing else brings joy, let's try laughing on a schedule." The inaugural festival was held in the town square with the motto, "Laughter is not shameful." Residents committed to making at least one person laugh. Within a couple of years, the custom evolved into an official holiday, involving the school, church, and even the police. Now, the celebration spans 3 days, featuring loudest laugh contests, communal comic book readings, theatrical performances, and a clown march, a parade in pajamas, socks, and styrofoam hats. Some businesses accept jokes as payment during this period. The system is simple. Tell a joke, receive a discount. A sign in the town hall reads, "During the festival, please do not frown. Penalty, 1 joke allowed." Tourists visit to experience this unusual urban ritual. Consequently, in a place where laughter became an obligation, there is more of it. Ironically, from contrived merriment, genuine joy has emerged. 50 facts. In Jamaica, there are a registry of recognized prophets. Officially named the National Register of Spiritual Advisors, it was created in 2013 after a series of scandals involving self-proclaimed prophets who deceived people, collected money, and sometimes led to tragedies. The Ministry of Social Development created a regulatory program that includes certification for those offering spiritual counseling services. To be included, individuals must undergo a psychological interview, have at least 5 years of proven practice, a community recommendation, and sign a code of ethics. Special attention is given to those claiming abilities in visions, communication with spirits, or predicting the future. While not formally banned, these claims require precise language and a mandatory rejection of medical advice. The ministry's website displays a map showing the number of official seers in each area and their operating hours. One such prophet, Braza Faya, is featured in a documentary. He practices only during the full moon, speaks in rhyme, and wears an official government badge. The registry itself represents a unique compromise between a deeply ingrained culture of prophecy and the need for legal oversight. In a country where faith is a lifestyle, the government decided to allow prophets, but only with a license. 51st point. Mongolian law permits a camel to inherit. This is possible if the camel is deemed a family member of social significance. The legal basis is an ancient code dating back to the 15th century and revised in the 21st century to comply with modern legal standards. In traditional nomadic life, a camel is not simply a means of transport, but an integral part of the household economy, often possessing a documented lineage and even a spirit protector. Some families legally transfer ownership of part of their assets, a yurt, a cart, or livestock, to a camel. This process involves a notary, witnesses, and a shaman who verifies the animal's identity and spirit. Upon the owner's death, a portion of the inheritance may be assigned to the camel. Its upkeep is funded by the inheritance, with the eldest son serving as the formal administrator. In one instance in the Gobi region, a camel named Jacques Sandor inherited half the herd and nominal ownership of 3 carts. The deceased's youngest grandson acted as his representative, signing a statement that he acts in the interests of the worthy animal. This practice is debated. Critics view it as outdated, while proponents consider it an essential aspect of national identity. The Ministry of Agriculture even released a booklet, How to Register an Inheritance for an Animal. Thus, in a land where the wind is the road, a camel can be more than a companion, a legally recognized family member. Item 52. Luxembourg city cemeteries feature water dispensers providing mineral water. These are not for human consumption, but for watering flowers on graves. Their presence reflects the city's stringent environmental regulations and respectful approach to burial sites.
The initiative began in the 2000s when authorities observed the problem of plastic bottle litter left by visitors who water the flowers. These bottles often remained near the memorials, spoiling the aesthetics of the cemeteries. In response, the Luxembourg municipality launched a green initiative for cemetery care, installing free water dispensers in several cemeteries. The water is dispensed via a foot pedal. The tap includes a holder for a watering can, and a rental service for metal watering cans is available nearby. A €1 deposit is required for the can, refundable upon return. A sign reads, "For those who care with respect." The dispensers are regularly cleaned, and the water is regularly tested for purity. Some cemetery sections have even earned a green standard mark for adopting this system. Residents comment, "If the water here is as pure as in a pharmacy, then we're doing it right." This demonstrates Luxembourg's commitment to practicality, cleanliness, and automation, even in matters of remembrance. As a result, flowers stay fresher for longer. 53rd fact. A single, state-approved fragrance for mosques exists in Pakistan. Officially called Masjid Fragrance, it was developed jointly by the Institute of Islamic Culture and the Ministry of Religious Affairs. The project started in 2015 after numerous complaints from worshippers across various cities regarding inconsistent mosque aromas, some pleasant, others musty and dusty. This prompted the need for standardization. Following surveys and volunteer testing, a unique fragrance was formulated, a mixture of rose oil, woody musk, and a subtle sandalwood note. No alcohol is included, and all ingredients comply with Sharia law. The blend is distributed to mosques as sprays or oils, depending on the local climate. Its popularity extended to schools and government buildings in certain provinces. Counterfeit versions also emerged. Bottles labeled Real Masjid Scent were sold in Karachi as a home atmosphere purifier. An imam humorously commented in an interview, "Now you can tell a real mosque from a room with a carpet just by the smell." This scent has become an unseen national symbol, imperceptible yet present. In a nation where disunity often surpasses unity, even a fragrance can represent an effort to establish a shared space. Fact number 54. A unique national competition exists in Finland, carrying radio receivers. It's a part of the Yukon Kanto Festival, famous for its wife-carrying contest. However, this festival also features another, equally unusual event, Radio Kanto, or radio carrying. The task is straightforward. Contestants must carry a heavy Soviet-made radio receiver from the 1970s on their shoulder across an obstacle course. This involves navigating bog boots, a log, and a mud pit, with a compulsory action, switching on the music midway through the course. The competition's origins lie in a spontaneous jest. A local retiree brought an old VEF radio to the festival, jokingly suggesting it was also a worthy partner. The idea proved popular. Rules were tightened, receivers became certified, and a minimum weight of 6 kilograms was established. Victory depends not only on speed, but also on signal purity. Switching off or crackling results in a penalty. Recently, participants have begun personalizing their radios, painting, adding badges, and giving them names. One competitor from Turku carried a receiver inscribed, "My grandfather listened to Radio Liberty. I carry it like a cross." This is more than just a sport. It's a farcical display, an ironic tribute to an era where radio broadcasts held almost sacred significance. In a nation where silence is almost a national characteristic, the sound of an old radio has become a symbol of collective memory, and, surprisingly, a rather upbeat one. 55th fact. Universities in Tanzania officially allow the teaching of magic. This isn't a Hogwarts-style school of witchcraft, but rather academic disciplines exploring traditional beliefs, rituals, and their societal influence. Dar es Salaam University, the nation's leading university, features a department of cultural anthropology and applied magic, offering courses in ritual analysis, spell structure, herbal remedies, and symbolism. Course titles include Semiotics of the Amulet, Magic in Identity, and History of Exorcism. The objective isn't to train students in magic, but to understand how magical thinking impacts behavior, decision-making, and village political structures. Instructors are ethnographers, psychologists, and occasionally shamans with academic credentials. Professor Mwele states, "To understand Tanzania without magic is like studying London without the underground." Surveys indicate that up to 80% of the population has sought help from traditional healers. While the government doesn't endorse superstition, it leverages research to fight fraud. University reports led to the closure of numerous fake shamanic businesses. Science and witchcraft therefore coexist. One explains, the other heals, both under the university's umbrella. Located in a historic monastery within the Alentejo region of Portugal is a remarkable library, the Biblioteca dos Sons, or Library of Sounds. Unlike traditional libraries, its holdings are not books, but rather a vast collection of audio recordings. These recordings capture a diverse range of sounds: the creak of wooden floors, the chime of a bell, the wind whispering through cypress trees, and the voice of an older woman reading a letter dated 1943. The project originated as an initiative to preserve the disappearing soundscapes of rural Portugal, sounds intrinsically linked to fading generations. Sound engineer João Vieira embarked on this endeavor, visiting homes and meticulously recording sounds such as the click of an old light switch, the cough of an elderly person, and the crackling of bread baking in a wood-fired oven. Initially a personal archive, the collection eventually became publicly accessible. Currently, the library boasts over 5,000 sound recordings, meticulously categorized by time of day, emotional tone, and geographical location. Visitors can utilize specialized listening equipment to experience soundscapes such as An Evening in a Tailor's House, 1952. Some recordings include descriptive annotations. For instance, "This is a dog that no longer barks. Her name is Mimi." The project has garnered a UNESCO grant and acclaim as an exemplary model of cultural archiving of intangible heritage. In a world saturated with noise, where silence is a rare commodity, Portugal has created a sanctuary of sound. It is a place devoid of books, but rich in voices, each a memory not to be read, but to be heard. Item 57. In South Sudan, a cow serves as a form of currency. This is not a metaphor. The nation utilizes both a monetary system and a livestock economy, where events such as marriage, divorce, apologies, and damage compensation are assessed in terms of livestock. The official currency is the South Sudanese pound. However, its use is negligible in rural regions. Cows are the preferred medium of exchange. A bride's price ranges from 20 to 50 cows. Adultery incurs a 3-cow penalty, while accidental harm necessitates a payment of 7 cows. More intricate calculations also exist. A man in Warrap State compensated a victim's family with 3 cows, a bull, and 20 goats, in fairness and as a sign of respect. The government does not oppose this practice. It has even published a guide, Recommended Compensation Rates, outlining prices for various situations. Some schools incorporate livestock into their arithmetic curriculum. A textbook example: you have 5 cows. You give 1 to your mother-in-law and 1 to your wife. How many are left? Economists debate the matter, but acknowledge that, in the absence of banks, inflation, and public trust in the government, a cow provides a more dependable form of payment than paper money. It is immune to counterfeiting, produces milk, and generates new units of account. Consequently, in the world's newest nation, a time-honored exchange system has proven more resilient than any reforms. Entry 58. A law in French Polynesia forbids giving children names deemed excessively sorrowful. The registration of names is regulated not only by linguistic and religious standards, but also by their emotional connotation. This started in the 1980s, when local registry offices received applications for unusual names, such as solitudo, loneliness, tristesse, sadness, and défaite. Some parents sought to memorialize personal or familial tragedies through these names. For instance, a father who lost his wife during childbirth named his daughter Souvenir, Memory. The public response was strong. Children faced ridicule, school difficulties, and often changed their names during adolescence. Consequently, the Ministry of Justice implemented a rule prohibiting names with persistent negative associations. The registering official assesses both grammatical correctness and emotional impact. Disputes lead to the formation of a commission comprising linguists and psychologists. One notable instance involved the name Nui, night, approved only after the parents demonstrated its association with a romantic encounter rather than darkness. Currently, acceptable name lists are published annually. Therefore, in a region where names hold significant symbolic weight, the state acts as a filter against overly personal expressions of grief in naming practices. Words born of sorrow must now adhere to established regulations. Item 59. Norway offers a unique program, the appointment of a state-designated godparent for children. This isn't a religious role, but a social support position within a national program aiding children facing hardship. The Fodderbarn program, initiated in 2006 by volunteers, subsequently secured government funding. Its aim is to connect children from disadvantaged families with an adult, neither a relative nor a government official, who can act as a friend, advisor, and source of support. Applicants undergo rigorous selection, including psychological evaluations, empathy training, and child safety courses. A child and godparent are then matched. Regular interaction is encouraged, walks, household assistance, conversations, all voluntary, yet structured. One mentor's application includes the statement, "I will not be your parent. I will be you as you grow." Ministry of Family Affairs data indicates that program participation lowers the risk of depression, school isolation, and domestic abuse. Some godparents have become integral family members for decades. One was named in a ward's will as the first person who taught me to laugh without fear. In a nation known for its meticulous planning, from pensions to parks, there's space for this unpredictable yet formalized expression of care. A state-appointed godparent might not be a guardian angel, but they witness a child's development in a way that even family members sometimes fail to achieve. 60. In Egypt, the purchase of bread is now done via fingerprint. This system was introduced in 2014 to combat corruption and fraud within the food subsidy program. The government subsidizes the cost of bread. A single loaf costs citizens a few piastres, but a maximum of 5 loaves per day are allowed. Previously, a paper voucher system was in place, which was subject to widespread forgery. This led to bakeries writing off significant quantities of bread to non-existent customers. In response, the Ministry of Supply launched the digital Tamween platform, incorporating biometric data. When purchasing bread, customers scan their fingerprint and the system automatically deducts their daily allowance. The process takes mere seconds. The baker sees the customer's name, account number, and remaining bread allowance on the screen. Any unused allowance is forfeited. Initially, the public, particularly in rural areas, viewed the system with suspicion, considering it spying technology. However, biometric identification has since become commonplace. Many bakeries now display signs stating "fingerprint only, fair for all." The system has resulted in a reduction in theft amounting to millions of dollars. Therefore, in a country where pharaohs built pyramids by aligning with the stars, bread distribution is now based on fingerprints, not connections. And it proves to be more reliable than a signature. During 2018, Venezuela faced a period where the weight of its paper currency exceeded its actual worth. The inflation rate was so extreme that a kilogram of Bolivar banknotes was more valuable than the total face value of the bills themselves. This led to the unconventional use of bolivars. They were repurposed for crafts, origami, tapestries, and even footwear. An artisan in Maracaibo created a line of wallets from discarded bolivars, commenting, "Now there's at least irony in this, a wallet made of money itself." Tourists purchased these wallets as souvenirs, while the local population found themselves needing bags of bills to buy basic necessities. The government responded to this absurd situation by implementing a redenomination, eliminating 5 zeros from the currency and issuing new banknotes. However, this measure proved temporary, and the same situation recurred within 6 months. Some families resorted to using the old banknotes as wallpaper, decorating cafes, apartments, and even public transportation with them. A school class covered their classroom walls with the banknotes, adding the inscription, "We are learning economics from the inside." A board game, Bolivar Monopoly, gained popularity using actual million Bolivar banknotes instead of the traditional game pieces. Therefore, in an oil-rich nation, money lost its primary function but gained a new life as a craft material, an art form, and a poignant reminder of a difficult period.
A robot cemetery exists in South Korea, specifically within Daegu City's industrial park. It's designed like a park, featuring neat pathways, flowers, and informational plaques. Instead of traditional graves, there are displays showcasing robot remains, disassembled bodies, wiring, and QR codes. These robots served in diverse sectors, including manufacturing, education, and healthcare. The concept originated in 2019 following an exhibition of retired robots at Kyungpook National University, where visitors began leaving flowers. Former operators explained this by stating, "They were part of the team, even if they didn't breathe." The Technopark's administration subsequently established a permanent memorial site. Each robot is identified by a plaque detailing its function and a brief biography, such as Alpha 5 Parts Sorter, served on the line from 2008 to 2020, or Sun Ho, Chemistry Teaching Assistant, malfunctioned during an experiment. Students conduct memorial services, including candle lighting and essay readings. A professor confessed, "When you work with a machine every day, its failure is almost like a colleague's illness." The advancement of emotional AI raises the question of whether robots require rituals. The cemetery itself doesn't offer a definitive answer, but it provides a framework. In a nation where technology is deeply ingrained, even robots receive a final ceremony, albeit with a battery in place of a soul.
Fact number 63. A law exists in Cambodia forbidding the sale of antique bricks. This law applies to the Angkor Wat temples and nearby constructions, many of which are progressively deteriorating due to age and weather. Prior to the year 2000, local residents frequently gathered old bricks and utilized them for construction purposes, creating borders, paving courtyards, and even building kilns. Archaeologists voiced concerns. 13th century bricks were vanishing in large numbers, and their reconstruction was impossible, as each brick possesses a unique composition and shape. Consequently, the government enacted legislation designating these bricks as cultural artifacts. They are prohibited from being sold, exported, given away, or used without obtaining prior authorization. Penalties for violating this law include fines and confiscation. An incident occurred where a farmer attempted to sell a brick inscribed with Khmer script to a tourist, resulting in a suspended sentence. Currently, in the Angkor region, brick patrols operate, volunteers and inspectors who monitor markets and construction sites. The paradox is that the local population often views these bricks pragmatically. It's warm, it breathes, why should it lie in the grass when it can be put in the hearth? The government is endeavoring to foster a new perspective, implementing educational initiatives and organizing school field trips with the motto, "Each stone is a letter in a book we haven't finished reading yet." Therefore, a brick is not merely a building component, but a piece of history, for which enforcement actions are now employed.
Fact number 64. Iceland offers a unique opportunity: getting married in a lava cave. Holding wedding ceremonies in lava caves is officially allowed. The most well-known location is the Viðgelmir Cave, formed 1,000 years ago following a volcanic eruption in Borgarfjörður. The interior temperature is approximately 10 degrees Celsius. The lighting is soft due to reflections from the lava walls, and the acoustics resemble those of an organ hall. The cave has been fitted with walkways, handrails, and a platform with a capacity of up to 50 people. Since 2016, more than 200 weddings have taken place there, including ceremonies officiated by pastors, shamans, and even a costumed magician. Authorities grant permits within a week, provided safety regulations are adhered to. A newlywed recounted in a blog post, "We walked through the dark tunnel and felt like we were marrying not each other, but the earth itself." Organizers provide various wedding packages, including a lava bouquet, a geothermal dinner, and a souvenir stone engraved with "Married in Fire." Some ceremonies are held in low light, by candlelight, with perceptible vibrations from underground water. Therefore, in a land where nature is palpable beneath one's feet, love is celebrated not under a traditional dome, but under the hardened lava. And yes, divorce is also an option, processed through the main office in Reykjavik.
Fact number 65. Iran has regulations governing the appearance of mannequins displayed in shops. In 2009, the Ministry of Islamic Orientation released a directive specifying acceptable characteristics for shop window dummies. These regulations prohibit mannequins from having clearly defined breasts, hips, and buttocks, and they are also forbidden from showing socks. Female mannequins must be either headless or wear headscarves, while male mannequins cannot have accentuated anatomical features. Penalties for violations include fines, confiscation of the inappropriate mannequins, and temporary store closures. The ministry's reports describe these inspections as visual morality inspections. Some business owners responded with ingenuity, covering mannequins completely in fabric or painting eyes directly onto their clothing. There were instances where mannequins were kept hidden behind curtains, only revealed upon customer request. A designer told reporters, "I feel like a sculptor who cannot show either face or body." In response to these restrictions, a clandestine group, the Anonymous Window Dressers, has formed, sharing photos of unrestricted mannequins in private online groups. Even a plastic doll, in a country where ideology pervades daily life, can become involved in a struggle for freedom of expression. 66th fact. A law in Switzerland prohibits flushing toilets after 10 p.m. in rented properties. This isn't in the criminal code, but it's common in rental agreements and governed by neighborhood rules. Basically, between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m., household noise disturbing other residents is prohibited. The sound of a toilet flush in older buildings, many exist in Switzerland, is considered such noise. In Geneva, Basel, and Bern, neighbors have called the police on nighttime toilet users. One case was publicized. A woman was fined 200 francs for repeated water noise at night. Subsequently, silent cisterns appeared in plumbing stores, and rental ads began including toilet use permitted according to schedule. Naturally, it depends on the building and neighbors. New apartments rarely have this rule, but older ones often do. Some landlords post signs in toilets, "Quietly at night. Let's preserve sleep." So, in a highly regulated country, from banking to dog walking, even nighttime toilet use needs social approval. Ironically, this contributes to the famous Swiss silence, noticeable even at 3 a.m. Fact number 67. In India, it is possible to face imprisonment for making an excessively loud mobile phone call during a film screening. This is a consequence of a law designed to protect cultural spaces, enacted in several states, including Maharashtra, in response to numerous complaints from moviegoers, filmmakers, and politicians. The law mandates that cinema patrons switch their mobile phones to silent mode before the commencement of the film. Non-compliance results in a fine of up to 5,000 rupees or administrative detention for up to 24 hours, particularly if the infraction occurs during a screening of a film in the state or religious language. A noteworthy incident involved a viewer in Mumbai who activated a loud game on his phone during a Hindi film. Security personnel contacted the police, the individual was apprehended, and he spent the night in police custody. Other similar incidents have been reported. For instance, a viewer who refused to stand during the playing of the national anthem before a film was fined for showing disrespect to the cinematic space. In India, cinema is not merely entertainment. It holds a quasi-ritualistic significance. Some cinemas still conduct an introductory prayer, and in rural venues, incense is burned before screenings. Therefore, in a nation where smartphones are ubiquitous, cinemas remain havens of quiet, and violating this unspoken rule can lead to the loss of not only respect but also liberty. For one evening, but officially. Canada offers a unique leave option, a maple syrup harvest leave. Formerly known as seasonal leave for agricultural participation, this leave is primarily associated with the syrup fever in Quebec. The maple sap harvesting season is brief, lasting only 3 to 4 weeks in March and April, demanding family involvement. Consequently, the government provides paid leave up to 5 days to aid family businesses. Schools implement syrup weeks featuring reduced class time and fresh syrup waffles during breaks. Rural areas host fairs offering fresh sap directly from the trees, warm, subtly sweet, and with a distinct woodsy aroma. Certain companies, notably IT firms in Montreal, introduce internal syrup holidays for employees originating from rural backgrounds. An engineer quipped, "In our team, we have 2 languages, French and syrup." Maple syrup transcends tradition. It's a significant national industry, with Canada supplying over 70% of global exports. A strategic syrup reserve, a federal stockpile of thousands of barrels, safeguards against harvest failures. Thus, in this generally calm nation, spring ushers in a short, intense period marked by paperwork, leave requests, and the flow of maple syrup, akin to oil, but far more delicious. Fact 69. A Nigerian court case involved an unusual defendant, a goat. During 2009 in Bauchi State, a man suspected of stealing a car was captured by a group of people. The pursuit was brief. Eyewitnesses claimed the suspect magically transformed into a goat at the marketplace. Police arriving at the scene discovered a white goat tied to a lamppost. Residents asserted that this goat was the thief. Police arrested the goat and brought it to the station. Local newspapers reported, "The accused is detained. He eats grass and gives no testimony." The incident gained national attention, creating a discussion between those favoring practical approaches and those adhering to traditional beliefs. Some found it humorous, while others maintained that such a transformation was possible in a nation where witchcraft beliefs are prevalent. The court, unable to prove guilt, released the goat. Police later explained their actions as a means of preventing public unrest. This case is now used in law schools to illustrate how to handle situations where public demand for justice clashes with the inability to obtain testimony from the accused. Despite its absurdity, this event became a historical note, highlighting the coexistence of supernatural beliefs and formal law in Nigeria. Number 70. Fact. In Japan, a formal occupation exists, the apologist. The Japanese term is shazai daiko, meaning apology representative. These professionals are employed to offer apologies on behalf of a client, personally, via telephone, or through written correspondence. The reasons for their employment are diverse, ranging from damaged personal relationships to breaches of contract. Certain companies offer premium apologies, which include a bow of a specific depth directly related to the severity of the transgression. A 30-degree bow is considered formal, 45 degrees sincere, and 60 degrees nearly self-demeaning. Experts in the art of apology undergo specialized training encompassing intonation, facial expressions, and the duration of the pause preceding the phrase, "Moshi wakeme mogozaimasen," I have nothing to say in my defense. In Tokyo, the agency Yashazai Daiko operates, providing services costing between $40 and $400. One man engaged an apologist for his former girlfriend. She wept, recited a poem, and presented a letter adorned with cherry blossom petals. Corporate apologies are also commonplace. If an employee displays rudeness, the company may dispatch a repentance delegation. Japanese society, known for its emphasis on outward appearances, treats such apologies seriously. The focus is not on the guilt itself, but on the proper execution of the apology ritual. Consequently, in a culture where ritual supersedes words, even guilt can be outsourced. The key is to perform the bow correctly, and, possibly, all will be forgiven. Australia, early 20th century, an official ban on rabbit-related jokes existed. The cause? A tragic-comic rabbit plague. European-introduced rabbits multiplied exponentially, devastating crops and native plants. The government responded with a massive fence exceeding 3,000 kilometers in length to contain the spread. A war on rabbits ensued. Trapping, shooting, and colony burning were commonplace. This led to extreme sensitivity surrounding rabbit-themed humor. Local councils enacted ordinances prohibiting cartoons, comics, and other humor deemed offensive to those affected by the rabbit infestation. Penalties included expulsion from fairs, exhibition bans, and even a fine for a vendor whose shirt depicted a rabbit with dynamite. This remains a sensitive issue. Queensland still prohibits rabbit ownership without permits. Even zoos and circuses require special exceptions. In a nation where koalas inspire affection, the rabbit represents a historical trauma, not for its cuteness, but for its ecological devastation and near destruction of the continent's sense of humor. Number 72. Fact. In Greece, one can take an examination to obtain the status of a god. This is not a religious ceremony, but part of the curriculum of a unique philosophical school known as the Neo-Hellenes, which offers a course in theognosia, theognosy. The curriculum encompasses the study of ancient Greek mythology, rhetorical styles, rituals, attire, and the cognitive processes of the Olympian gods. The course concludes with an examination, an oral presentation of a divine concept before a panel of senior members. In the year 2022, one graduate presented a thesis titled Zeus as Architect of Justice, while another chose Artemis, a model of ecological ethics. Successful completion results in a diploma bearing a new name. The graduate may choose to use, for example, Theophon, student of Hermes. This diploma lacks official state recognition, however. Participants report that the course enhances charisma, public speaking abilities, and self-assurance. Some individuals participate to recover from challenging life experiences. On the day of the examination, participants wear togas, decorate their hair with laurel, and deliver speeches from a stone circle that is an exact replica of an ancient agora. An instructor states, "This is not a theatrical performance. It is an attempt to discover oneself through myth." Therefore, in a nation where the remnants of the past dominate the urban landscape, some find their identity not in the future, but in the imagery of the past. The goal is not to become Zeus, but to learn to control one's inner power without harming others. A municipal department in the Netherlands focuses specifically on combating loneliness. This isn't figurative language. It's a real Amsterdam City department, officially named the Eenzaamheid Project Bureau, the Loneliness Project Office. It was founded in 2016 after research revealed that over 25% of elderly residents experience loneliness weekly, with 10% reporting daily feelings of isolation. The initiative started by mapping social deserts, areas characterized by infrequent greetings, limited social interaction, and prevalent complaints of silence. Subsequently, social first aid kits were developed, compilations of brochures, addresses, and occasionally phone numbers of volunteers willing to contact lonely individuals. Stores displayed stickers reading, "You are welcome here," just like that. Hospitals expanded their inquiries to include not only patients' physical health, but also their social networks. A unique program, the Loneliness Bank, allows individuals to donate their time, offering walks, meals, or coffee companionship. One contribution read, "Elderly neighbor, I can listen, I can cook soup." This demonstrates that even in a highly organized nation, space has been made for addressing the intangible and difficult to quantify emotion of loneliness. The approach prioritizes social interaction over medication. It functions as a municipal service, complete with an address and feedback mechanism. Nova Chronopolis, a village in the Minas Gerais state of Brazil, was established by a philosophical community. Officially designated an experimental zone outside linear time, it prohibits wristwatches and lacks public clocks. All activities, from meals to meetings, follow the community's internal rhythm. Guests receive a brochure. You have entered a timeless zone. Breathe not by the clock, but by yourself. Natural phenomena, sunrise, cicadas, shifting shadows, serve as time markers. Shops operate without fixed hours. Vendors open when they feel ready. Professor Louis Thalles, a founding member, explains, "We don't reject time, we refuse the violence of measurement." The experiment, ongoing since 1999, is debated. Some dismiss it as a naive escape from reality. Others see therapeutic value, a week free from schedules, allowing one to perceive time's natural flow. Psychologists observe reduced anxiety in visitors. One quipped, "First you lose your sense of time, then the need for it." In a land of somber rhythms and heavy traffic, this community has rejected imposed rhythms. Their aim isn't to stop time, but to let it flow freely, unconstrained by schedules and punctuality.
Fact number 75. A tax on televisions continues to exist in the Czech Republic, irrespective of whether the television is used. This law, enacted in the 1990s, mandates that all television owners, as per census records or upon purchasing a new television, pay approximately 240 crowns per month. This applies even if the television is unused. Failure to pay results in fines, and inspectors may request to inspect the television. This law has sparked considerable debate in the digital era. Many citizens question the necessity of paying for broadcast television when online streaming services are readily available, arguing, "I watch everything online. Why should I pay for broadcast television?" The government's response emphasizes the importance of public broadcasting as a social institution, not merely a source of content. Even if not viewed, it maintains standards and plays a vital role. Proposals to replace the tax with voluntary subscriptions were debated in the 2010s, but met with strong opposition from television companies, who declared this is the end of television as a social obligation. Therefore, in a nation increasingly focused on freedom of choice, the television has become a symbol of the conflict between form and content. One may not watch television, yet payment is required for its continued existence, as a symbol, an archive, and a potential platform for future events.
Ethiopian timekeeping differs significantly from the global standard. The system employed, known as Ethiopian time, commences at 6 in the morning, the time of sunrise. Consequently, 7 a.m. by international reckoning is the first hour of the day in Ethiopia, 9 a.m. is the third, and midnight is the sixth hour of the night. This discrepancy necessitates frequent clarifications, notices on buses, informational pamphlets for visitors, and even dual-faced clocks in railway stations, one displaying global time, the other local. Verbal communication often includes the specification European time or hours. In rural communities, the international time system is rarely used. Educational institutions and courts alike publish schedules in both formats. An Addis Ababa judge confessed, "Sometimes we get confused ourselves, but it's ours." This solar-based timekeeping might appear antiquated, but it reflects a specific philosophy, living in harmony with nature's rhythms rather than adhering to arbitrarily established numerical timeframes. In a nation with its own calendar, 7 years behind the Gregorian, where a year may comprise 13 months, even time itself becomes an element of cultural identity. Thus, lateness in Ethiopia is not always lateness. It can simply represent a different temporal perspective.
Fact number 77. Since 1992, chewing gum has been officially prohibited in Singapore. This prohibition is rigorously enforced, reflecting Singapore's characteristically precise approach to governance. The rationale behind the ban is not oral health, but rather maintaining clean streets and efficient public transportation.
During the late 1980s, there was a rise in minor acts of vandalism involving chewing gum. It was affixed to subway doors, used to obstruct elevator mechanisms, and discarded on public seating. A critical incident involved chewing gum blocking a subway's photocell, nearly resulting in a train accident. In response, the then Prime Minister Lee Kuan Yew stated, "Freedom ends where the sticky mass begins." This statement led to the complete prohibition of the import, sale, and distribution of chewing gum. Penalties for violations can reach 2,000 Singapore dollars. The only exception is therapeutic chewing gum, available with a prescription, such as for smoking cessation. Tourists are often incredulous about the ban. Changi Airport prominently displays a no gum sign. There have been instances of chewing gum being seized at the border, treated as smuggled goods. Some individuals have attempted to dispose of their gum before border control, spitting it out at the checkpoint. Currently, Singapore's streets are impeccably clean, and its subway system operates with exceptional precision. In this city-state, where even spitting is considered an offense, chewing gum has become a symbol of defiance. Anyone wishing to chew gum will need to account for their actions to the authorities.
In the Gobi Desert regions of Mongolia, where the nearest road is tens of kilometers away, the delivery of mail by camel continues to this day. This method remains necessary due to the lack of alternative transportation options. The Mongolian Postal Service, Mongol Shudian, officially classifies camels as high-mobility vehicles. During colder months, horses or motorcycles substitute for camels, but during the summer, only camel caravans are utilized. The postman receives a mail bag, a route map, and a supply of kumis. One postman, Mr. Biamba, has worked this route for over 20 years. He explains, "When a sandstorm comes, I hide the letters under myself. Sometimes I sleep with them." The letters are more than just paper. They are documents, notices, and often the sole means of communication with family. In some villages, residents await the postman's arrival. An hour beforehand, a dust trail is visible, signaling his approach and generating excitement. Some routes receive mail twice monthly. In the 2020s, proposals emerged to replace camels with drones, but local residents oppose this change. A camel not only delivers mail, but also carries the scent of the steppe, leaves a visible track, and provides a sense of tangible presence. Therefore, in a country where nomadic culture remains influential, even mail delivery mirrors nomadic travel. Slow, across the sand, with the sound of hooves. And the mail arrives where there is no internet, but there is anticipation.
Fact 79. In certain Polish villages, there's a prohibition against death. This isn't humorous. It's a legal paradox stemming from a tragic situation, the absence of a cemetery. In Mieszkowo village, Podkarpackie Voivodeship, the local cemetery was shut down several years ago because it failed to meet sanitary standards. The groundwater level was excessively high. Until a new cemetery is constructed, burials are forbidden. However, construction has been delayed, and people have continued to pass away. Consequently, the local council issued a decree. We request that you refrain from dying until the completion of infrastructure projects. The phrasing is illogical, yet it legally holds the status of a temporary directive. Similar incidents have occurred in other villages, for instance in Yastrembia, where the sole undertaker departed, leaving the district without funeral services. They released a statement. "Please provide advance warning if you intend to die. We will find transportation." These stories circulated widely in the media, generating numerous memes, but the core issue persists. Infrastructure may lag behind biological processes. Responding to criticism, an official stated, "We didn't prohibit death. We simply reminded that death also requires planning." Therefore, in 21st century Europe, death remains unpredictable. But if you reside in a small Polish village, it might also be unlawful, temporarily, until the works are finished. 81st fact. A former gold mine near Johannesburg, South Africa, has been given a new life. It's now a unique agricultural operation, a vertical hydroponic farm.
Abandoned at the beginning of the 2000s, the mine initially attracted illegal miners, then researchers studying stalactites, and finally agricultural engineers. In 2018, the Golden Greens Company converted a section of the mine into a vertical hydroponic farm. The mine maintains a stable temperature, uses artificial lighting, and a closed-loop water system, making the harvest independent of weather conditions. Lettuce, spinach, and arugula thrive in what were once mine shafts, where explosions and the clang of picks once resounded. An employee commented, "We don't dig for gold, we dig for freshness." The produce is delivered to Johannesburg restaurants, labeled grown below ground. The project is economically successful due to the absence of pests, low operating costs, and the elimination of soil use. The government supports the project as a model of sustainable development. Future plans include a mushroom growing section and an educational center. Where once the earth was exhausted, it is now nurtured. From below, the mine has transformed from a symbol of depletion to a vibrant greenhouse, filled with greenery instead of dust.
81st fact, Liechtenstein offers the unique opportunity to rent the entire country. Since the year 2010, an official contract has been in effect, enabling individuals or corporations to lease the whole of Liechtenstein for a day or longer. This initiative resulted from a collaboration between the Principality's government and the American entertainment agency Rent a Nation. The daily rental fee begins at $700,000. This includes a symbolic key to the nation, the right to display personal insignia, the ability to rename streets, and the opportunity to conduct a private ceremony in Parliament. During the rental period, signs are changed, a special guest passport is provided, and a minister serves as an honorary guide. A rap group initially expressed interest, intending to hold a private album launch. The deal, however, failed due to a disagreement over anonymity. The musicians desired complete confidentiality, whereas Liechtenstein maintained its visa requirements. Subsequently, the country was rented for corporate team building. Employees resided in various villages, learning local crafts and conducting business meetings in the Alpine Meadows. The princely family approves. As long as we have a flag, we can share it. Consequently, in Europe, where everything is regulated by law, a minuscule enclave has discovered a method of generating revenue by creating the illusion of an entire world. And occasionally, that illusion becomes reality.
82nd fact. In Bangladesh, there is a profession, a train pusher. This profession began in Dhaka, the nation's capital, due to the extreme overcrowding on commuter trains, a situation beyond the capacity of regular train personnel. The pusher's job is to physically push passengers onto the trains before departure and to prevent passengers from falling off. This practice started in the 1990s, coinciding with the rise of rail transport as the primary mode of transportation for migrants and workers. During peak hours, mornings and evenings, the platform becomes a chaotic scene. Hundreds of people, luggage, children, and groceries. The train cannot wait. Thus emerged the Dhaka Dars, individuals in bright vests compensated by the railway company or even directly by passengers. They run alongside the train, yelling, "Move to the left," pushing passengers with their hands and occasionally their feet. One such worker explains, "The main thing is not to cause pain, but also not to let anyone be left behind." The work is hazardous. Injuries and even fatalities have occurred. Yet, the demand for this profession remains high. The pushers coordinate their actions with the train driver. Upon the driver's signal, they quickly move out of the way. Tourists often view this as a spectacle, while locals refer to them as engines of human determination. In a country with one of the world's highest population densities, even the act of boarding a train necessitates a specialized profession. It requires strength, precision, and the understanding that pushing is not an act of aggression, but rather an act of assistance.
83rd fact. Finland provides a box instead of a crib for newborns. Since 1938, the government has presented each pregnant woman with a maternity package, or äitiyspakkaus. This large cardboard box includes clothing, diapers, thermometers, toys, creams, and a mattress.
Crucially, the box is designed to function as the baby's first bed. It features a soft bottom, sides, and ventilation. Mothers in remote areas, distant from hospitals, began using the box for their newborns due to its convenience, safety, and portability. This initiative halved infant mortality rates. Obtaining the package requires completing initial medical examinations and registering for prenatal care, promoting early diagnosis and health care. The kit contains seasonally appropriate items in neutral tones. It's often referred to as a room in a box. A custom has developed of photographing babies in the box on their first day. During the 2010s, this practice became an export phenomenon, adopted by Great Britain, Canada, and India. However, in Finland, it's more than just a box. It symbolizes the state's immediate embrace of newborns. In a land where silence is valued, care is demonstrated not through words, but through the cardboard cradle where the future rests.
84th fact: a ban on the color black exists in Turkmenistan. In the year 2018, the government implemented an unspoken yet widespread prohibition against black automobiles, followed by a similar ban on black clothing. Law enforcement officials stopped vehicles of the incorrect color, demanding that they be repainted. Owners of black Toyotas and Mercedes spent thousands of dollars repainting their vehicles in white or silver. Black items were seized upon entry into government buildings and removed from display in marketplaces. This originated from a superstition purportedly stated by the president himself that black is a harbinger of misfortune. While there was no official confirmation, the regulation spread rapidly. Hairdressers ceased offering black hair dyeing services, and designers stopped producing dark-colored garments. An Ashgabat resident lamented to reporters, "I have a black car, a black suit, and a black cat. Now I am outside the law." Some found a workaround, wearing dark blue, nearly black clothing, skirting the edge of what was permitted. Consequently, in a nation where a personality cult coexists with ornamental aesthetics, color has transcended mere form and become an element of ideology. Black, a classic in fashion, unexpectedly became a symbol of opposition, or, at the very least, a cause for suspicion.
85th fact: in Norway, one can legally own a mountain. Ownership is supported by documentation, including a cadastral number, and is passed down through inheritance. This isn't figurative language. The nation operates under a system where nearly all mountains, forests, and fjords are privately or communally owned. Occasionally, a single person or family owns an entire peak. Storhovden Mountain in Trøndelag County serves as an example. It's been privately held by the Bakken family since the late 19th century. Locals may organize climbs for a nominal fee, but the owner retains the right to deny access. In 2015, a tourist protested being denied access to a slope with rare plants. The response was brief: "It's our grass." In another case, the owner leased part of the slope for a Viking movie shoot, earning 100,000 kroner. However, the government maintains the right of general access if a mountain is designated a natural landmark. A separate contract is then drawn up. Websites even exist for selling mountains, advertising plots with phrases like "plot with a panorama," "virginity guaranteed." Therefore, in a country valuing nature, it's also treated as a commodity. The statement, "This is my mountain," in Norway holds both poetic and legal weight.
86th fact: Argentina has a law enabling grandmothers to receive a pension for caring for their grandchildren. This legislation was introduced in the early 2000s and something, following the realization that tens of thousands of children were being raised by their grandparents due to factors such as parental migration, poverty, or death. The existing pension system did not consider this situation. Pensions were calculated based solely on the parents' work records and contributions. Consequently, Parliament enacted the law supporting mediated motherhood. Grandmothers officially caring for grandchildren are eligible for a pension supplement or, if they lack work history, a social pension for upbringing. Applicants must provide documentation including school records, medical reports, and proof of guardianship. A particularly poignant aspect of the law is the inclusion of time spent at parent-teacher meetings as a contribution to upbringing. Some grandmothers even presented children's drawings and notebooks as evidence. Respect points, consultation centers for elderly caregivers, have opened in various provinces. An official commented, "If the state recognizes work, it must also recognize care." Therefore, in a country where tango teaches holding and leading, grandmothers not only nurture their grandchildren, but sustain entire families. Their care is now officially recognized as a profession. 87th fact. Bhutan's economic evaluation is based not on financial metrics, but on the happiness of its citizens. Since 1972, the Gross National Happiness (GNA) Index has been implemented. It was introduced as an alternative to the standard gross domestic product. King Jigme Singye Wangchuk declared that prosperity isn't defined by the volume of goods produced. He proposed 4 key indicators: sustainable development, environmental conservation, cultural preservation, and effective governance. The government regularly conducts extensive surveys, inquiring about the frequency of positive emotions, the availability of time for relaxation and meditation, and the quality of interpersonal relationships. These surveys encompass numerous parameters, from sleep patterns to self-assessment. Government policies are formulated based on this data. For instance, if a region experiences a decline in happiness, psychologists are deployed, festivals are organized, and housing improvements are undertaken. Schools educate children in gratitude in addition to mathematics. One classroom begins each day with the phrase, "Thank you that I am alive." Critics label the system naive and a mask for poverty, but the Bhutanese reply, "We are not against progress. We advocate for progress accompanied by happiness." Consequently, in a nation where television arrived only in 1999, measuring happiness has become a national priority. While not always flawlessly executed, it demonstrably contributes to improved quality of life.
88th fact. Israel boasts one of the most stringent noise ordinances globally. Between 11 p.m. and 7 a.m., prohibitions extend beyond loud music and construction to encompass even noise generated by furniture. The Sheket Leila law, translating to night quiet, mandates fines for sounds exceeding 40 decibels within apartment buildings. This implies restrictions on moving chairs without protective pads, slamming doors, and noisy dishwashing. New residential developments enforce these regulations particularly rigorously, often incorporating quiet agreements into leases, prohibiting even nighttime laundry. A notable case involved neighbors suing a young couple for the sound of their footsteps on a hardwood floor. The judge's ruling was simple: install carpeting or pay a fine. In response to these strict measures, the Sheket B'Sechel movement, Quiet with Reason, emerged, promoting a more tolerant approach to nighttime noise, discouraging reports for crying children or dropped toys. Despite this, police responses remain frequent. Dozens of calls are logged nightly in major cities. Consequently, in a country where daytime urban noise is overwhelming, nighttime is governed by strict legal controls. If silence is golden, in Israel, it comes with a price tag.
89th fact. In the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, there are 87 officially sanctioned hairstyles. Residents are permitted to choose only from this government-approved catalog of haircuts. The catalog is gender-specific, 28 options for men and 59 for women. Each barbershop displays this catalog, and stylists must adhere to it. Any deviation from the approved styles is considered a breach of public order. Married women are required to have short hair. Women under the age of 25 may have braids or curls, but not below the shoulder blades. Men are limited to a side parting, a boxer cut, or a military-style cut, no longer than 5 centimeters. In 2015, Pyongyang saw a campaign promoting the patriotic haircut, resembling the style worn by Kim Jong-un. Posters in salons proclaimed, "Get a haircut with respect for the motherland." Enforcement is not always consistent, particularly in rural areas. However, in the capital and during large-scale events, hairdressers operate under the principle of one form, one nation. Consequently, in a country where individuality is viewed with suspicion, even hairstyles are controlled by the state. If a haircut reflects one's inner world, then in North Korea, that world is short, neat, and strictly regulated. 90th fact. Iceland still has a naming committee. This is an official state institution that determines the acceptability of a child's name chosen by the parents. Established in 1991, its purpose is to safeguard the language from foreign influences and maintain the traditional naming convention where surnames are derived from the father's given name. Names not conforming to Icelandic grammar and phonetics may be rejected. A notable case arose in 2013 involving a girl named Blair, after a character in an American television show. Her name wasn't officially recognized, and girl appeared in official documents. The parents' lawsuit was unsuccessful. The committee insists names must inflect easily, adhere to linguistic tradition, and present no pronunciation challenges. By the 2020s, approximately 1,800 masculine and 1,900 feminine names were on the approved list. Any new name requires submission with an explanation of its meaning and origin. There have been amusing instances. Lucifer was rejected, while Zlatan was accepted because it sounds harmonious. In a country where phone books are alphabetized by given name, a name isn't merely a choice, it's a cultural element. To stand out, consult the language, then the committee. Fact number 91. Before elections in Venezuela, the internet is shut down. The official reason given is the prevention of fake news and the maintenance of information hygiene. For the past 10 years, on election days, widespread disruptions to internet access have been observed. Social media platforms become inaccessible, messaging apps are disabled, and websites displaying vote tallies are non-functional. NetBlocks, an organization tracking internet freedom, documented that on the day of the presidential elections in 2018, access to major online resources was restricted for 80% of the country's internet service providers. The government claims this is a fight against foreign interference. The opposition counters that it is a fight against the truth. In response, users develop alternative methods of access. VPN addresses are shared via messaging apps, schools teach secondary school students how to circumvent censorship, and illegal Wi-Fi hotspots powered by batteries operate in rural areas. One user quipped, "Our internet is like our elections. It's supposedly there, but it doesn't work." Consequently, in a nation rich in oil but where goods are rationed, even the internet has become a political instrument. It functions not as a means of communication, but as a means of control. And on such days, even an old radio seems to represent freedom. Fact number 92. In Tajikistan, extravagant wedding celebrations are officially prohibited. A law on the regulation of customs and traditions, implemented in 2007, severely restricts the number of attendees, the quantity of food served, the number of vehicles in the wedding procession, and the event's overall duration. The limits are 150 guests, a single hot dish, one musical performance, and a maximum of 3 cars. The underlying cause is widespread poverty. Families would host lavish weddings, accumulating significant debt, selling livestock, and even their homes to avoid social shame. The legislation followed several tragic incidents. In one instance, the groom's father suffered a fatal heart attack the day after the wedding due to overwhelming debt. Enforcement is rigorous. Inspectors monitor compliance, photographing food, recording vehicle license plates, and counting servings. Violators face fines and sometimes mandatory explanatory conversations at the local community center, Mahala. This has led to the emergence of clandestine weddings. Guests are invited in a second wave. Food is ostensibly prepared for neighbors but delivered to the venue. Some families share recipes for invisible plov in secret. Consequently, in a nation where tradition holds near religious significance, the government is attempting to regulate it. The aim is to redefine happiness, not as opulence, but as peace and harmony, or at the very least, a balance between love and the number of dishes served. Fact number 93. Smiling for identification photographs is prohibited in Iran. The official explanation is straightforward. Biometric data needs to be precise. Facial expressions must be neutral, lips closed, and there should be no visible emotion. Nevertheless, this technical requirement has a deeper cultural and political context. In the year 2011, the government issued a directive. The face should reflect the seriousness of a citizen of the Islamic Republic. This applies not only to passports, but also to student identification cards, driver's licenses, and even access passes to government buildings. Photo studios display signs. Please maintain a neutral expression. Photographers jokingly remark, "If you smile, we'll be fined." A social media flash mob emerged, featuring before and after photos illustrating the Iranian processing. The difference is stark, resembling the contrast between a friendly tea invitation and a police summons. Responding to criticism, an official declared, "A serious face doesn't indicate sadness. It shows respect for the procedure." Consequently, in a nation where street fashion challenges established norms, even a photograph becomes a battleground between the individual and the image mandated by the system. A lack of a smile in a passport photo doesn't necessarily reflect sadness. It's simply a regulation.
Fact number 94. A city in Canada prohibits dyeing. This is Longyearbyen, the administrative center of the Svalbard archipelago situated in the Arctic and officially part of Norway, though its industrial history includes significant Canadian involvement. Local regulations prohibit burials due to the permafrost. Bodies do not decompose, but remain frozen for decades. Following influenza outbreaks in the early 20th century, it was discovered that buried bodies still contained active viruses. Consequently, a unique decision was made. The deceased are transported to the mainland. In cases of fatal illness, individuals are evacuated thousands of kilometers. Residents jest, "Living here is fine, dying not here." Longyearbyen lacks a maternity ward, hospital, and cemetery. These facilities are located outside the city limits. Tourists initially find this unbelievable. A city without death? However, a sign at the entrance reads, "Take care of your health. It's the only thing you'll leave here." Therefore, in a world where death is the universal end, this Arctic city has chosen to delay it. Not philosophically, but practically. This icy paradox is the permafrost, where death has no place.
Fact number 95. In India, the profession of a professional mourner exists. It's known as Rudali, meaning weeping woman. Ancient tradition, particularly in rural Rajasthan and Bihar, dictates that women are employed to mourn the dead. This isn't just crying, it's a theatrical, practiced performance involving voice, intonation, text, and gestures. The belief is that loud weeping aids the soul's transition to the afterlife. Additionally, upper caste men cannot openly display emotion, so grief is outsourced. The Rudali visits the deceased's home, learns their life story, and uses this to create a lament, a poem, song, or rhythmic wail. The job is risky. A fine line must be walked between genuine emotion and performance. Disputes between families have occurred. She cried louder at the neighbor's funeral. In 1993, director Kalpana Lajmi made the film Rudali, prompting debate. Is commissioning grief ethical or a cultural duty? The profession is nearly extinct now, but in some areas it's still passed down through women. Therefore, in a country where emotion is revered, grief is a craft. Someone must perform it, so others can remain silent.
Fact number 96. In the Italian city of Genoa, there exists a custom of asking forgiveness for lost bread. This ancient tradition of the Baker's Guild dictates that every spring a symbolic loaf is brought to St. Lawrence Square as an apology for all bread baked badly or thrown away during the past year. The ritual is known as Pane del Perdono, bread of forgiveness.
Its roots trace back to the 14th century, a time when periods of hunger were interspersed with times of plenty, and bread was regarded not merely as sustenance but as a sacred offering. An incident involving a merchant discarding a stale loaf resulted in a drought, interpreted as an ominous sign. Consequently, the Bakers' Guild annually bakes a large round loaf and takes it to the church, where the priest declares, "Let us forgive those who neglected the blessing." Following the ceremony, the bread is distributed to the needy. Nowadays, this event has evolved into a festival, featuring flags, the aromas of rosemary and cinnamon, and competitions for the best loaf. However, the core meaning remains: bread deserves respect. Even in the 21st century, even in supermarkets. In a nation where food is an art form, a single slice of bread can be a prayer, or an apology, or both simultaneously.
Fact number 97. In Japan, there is a formal body odor assessment. This is known as Nioi Kensa, translating to olfactory inspection, and it's implemented in certain companies, particularly during warmer months. This practice stems from Japanese corporate culture, where maintaining good personal hygiene is viewed as essential for professionalism. Large corporations, including Kao Corporation and Shiseido, employ certified olfactory inspectors. These inspectors evaluate the odor of perspiration, breath, hair, and clothing. Participation is voluntary. However, declining the assessment is often interpreted as a lack of team spirit. Before the evaluation, employees are instructed to avoid strong-smelling foods, perfumes, and smoking. A brief conversation follows, during which the inspector observes the individual from various angles and takes notes. The assessment is scored on a scale of 0 to 10, with anything above 5 considered unacceptable. If the score exceeds the acceptable limit, recommendations are provided, such as using deodorant, changing clothes, or consulting a doctor. Some companies even establish smell days, office-wide reminders about personal hygiene. There are also courses available on olfactory etiquette, teaching participants how to apologize for any unpleasant odors. Therefore, in a culture known for indirect communication, even body odor has become subject to formal procedures. Career advancement, consequently, requires maintaining impeccable personal hygiene.
Fakt number 98. W Czechii, employees have the option of taking a leave designated for recovery from excessive alcohol consumption. Officially termed a health restoration holiday, this leave is recognized by some companies, especially those in creative fields, jako legitimate part of their work culture. This practice originated in Prague in the early 2010s when startups in the design and IT sectors implemented an unofficial policy. If an employee attended a company event and is unable to work the following morning, it's preferable to stay home rather than come to work with bloodshot eyes. A director explained their reasoning. "We value productivity, not presence. Your mind should be functioning, not aching." Eventually, this type of leave was incorporated into employment contracts, up to 3 days annually, without requiring justification. The only requirement is notification before 10 in the morning. Some companies circulated memos stating, "If you are feeling unwell, do not come to work, recover and return with fresh ideas." Instances of misuse did occur. One employee even took a recovery holiday after a virtual party. However, the system has generally proven successful. Psychologists interpret this not as condoning excessive drinking, but as acknowledging a reality, particularly in a country where beer consumption is comparable to coffee consumption. Therefore, in a society prioritizing honesty over formality, even weakness can be formally accepted. The key is to prevent it from becoming the norm. Instead, transform it into a day dedicated to making well-considered decisions.
Fact number 99. Estonia offers online voting to its citizens. This nation pioneered national-level e-voting, commencing in 2005. The initiative began with the introduction of the ID card, a personal digital signature held by nearly every citizen. This allows for electronic prescription access, tax payments, contract signing, and voting. The election system becomes accessible several days prior to the official election date. Users authenticate via their ID card, view the electronic ballot, and cast their vote. Revoting is permitted, Only the final vote is recorded. Security measures include encryption and dual identity verification. No significant security breaches have been reported. Voter participation has risen by 15%. Elderly citizens receive training on tablet usage, while younger voters participate from abroad. A London-based student stated, "I vote on the bus, on my way to a lecture." Critics argue the process lacks solemnity. However, Estonians counter, the solemnity is in freedom, not in a booth. Consequently, in a country where forests are blanketed by Wi-Fi, even democracy has been digitized. The voice of the voter resonates, via cable, as powerfully as from a public platform.
Switzerland prohibits the keeping of a single guinea pig. Legislation enacted in 2008 designates these animals as a social species. Thus, solitary confinement is deemed animal abuse. At least 2 guinea pigs are mandated. This isn't merely a formality. Owners must provide documentation substantiating the acquisition of a second animal. Should one guinea pig perish, a replacement must be secured within 1 month. A guinea pig rental service exists to temporarily address the loneliness of a surviving animal. Veterinarians issue certificates stating the animal's inability to live alone. This law forms part of a comprehensive animal welfare reform, encompassing a ban on boiling lobsters, stipulations for humane dog walking, and the requirement to train fish in proper aquarium navigation. The Swiss emphasize this reflects not eccentricity, but respect. As one parliamentarian stated, "If you take a life, be its society." Consequently, even in a nation renowned for its precision timekeeping, a rodent is not to be left alone. A single hamster is acceptable, but a solitary guinea pig constitutes a legal infraction.